Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me go all out. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me act a fool. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me lose my cool. Up in here, up in here. Yeah.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabby's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabby's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And what is going on, fam? We have a big show tonight. I do want to go ahead and tell you guys, if it's okay with you guys, we're going to have a DMX kind of style show. Is that all right with you? Is that all right with you guys? Because tonight's theme is Meet Me Outside. And one thing about DMX I'll say is this, is that DMX did not care what anybody thought of him. And he told you exactly how he felt, and he did so rather quickly, and he was pretty direct about it. And in one of his songs called Party Up, at the end of the song, DMX says, meet me outside. Meet me outside. Because tonight, with tonight's stories, I think you'll understand why we say meet me outside. And DMX said, all the fly ladies meet me outside. He said, all the street people meet me outside. And it's just a meet me outside kind of night. So that's our theme tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Leroy knows what I'm talking about. 1, 2, meet me outside, meet me outside, meet me outside. Leroy knows. We have so much to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to go ahead and start out by saying hello to people in the chat. Sean said, it's dark and hell is hot. Classic. Yes, classic. He was straight to the point. Straight to the point. Yeah, I know all the millennials know about D. I know you guys all know about D. 1, 2, meet me outside. Meet me outside. But DMX said, y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here. And I think that's how a lot of people are feeling right now. I really do. Let's say hello to the chat. Cat T said the world is run by PDFs. Why did we ever look up to these people? It's disgusting. This is true. Shout out to Fafo. Hello, Sabby. The question is, will Trump administration shut the government back down over his Epstein involvement? You know what? I didn't think about that, but that's a good question. Good question there, Fafo. Shout out to Blockbuster says hi. Greetings, Cheetah says hello, Sabby and everyone. Free Palestine, free Sudan. Shout out to Karen Rivora for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Karen a big whoop, whoop. Welcome. Greetings, Rain. Java's acceptance speech was so powerful. She's not messing around. Both fists swinging from the heart made me cry a little. Yeah, man. Everything is coming out. Greetings, Jimmy says hi, y'all. Shout out to Salma says Netanyahu's biggest nightmare is Jewish Bible. Jewish Bible glorifies Ayatollah. Ayatollah means sign of God. Ayatollah on the very first page of the Jewish Bible. Interesting. Shout out to Henrik said, don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. What's up, Henrik? Greetings, Yossarian says, the darndest things keep happening. Isn't that funny how that just happens? Shout out to Moo. The biggest takeaway from the Epstein emails is that he had ties to both Dems and Republicans, which makes sense since he was a Mossad agent. Seems like he wanted Hillary to win too. People catching on. Shout out to Hannah says, I've been waiting all day for this. Greetings, KZ said, it's crazy. The job market sucks for normal people. Shout out to Lauren says, Friday the 13th fell on a Thursday this month. Yes. Greetings, Abdul said, I'm not surprised by the emails that were released by Epstein, pictures of being with him and have been on his island. So he knew something was wrong going on, anticipating in something he don't want the world to know about. Shout out to Mr. Moto says, names are words and what are the weight of words? Shout out to Anthony said, what has bothered me the most about the new docs released in the Epstein case is the revelation that Michael Wolff knew what was going on and could have exposed it and literally saved a life. That part, that's a big one. Writer Michael Wolff, who had frequent communications with Jeffrey Epstein via email. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in because, like I said, we do have a lot to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't done so, could you answer that poll question? I'm just curious to see if you guys are surprised about anything that's been revealed so far. I have updates about the Epstein emails tonight. On Wednesday, I uploaded a separate video going through the damning information that was exposed on Wednesday. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. When you get a chance. So I went through a lot of that stuff yesterday, but tonight we're going to talk about the new information that's been released and the way that Trump supporters are taking this, because the thing is, this really isn't just a referendum on Donald Trump. There are a lot of powerful people that were mentioned in those emails, which we'll get into as well tonight. It's not just him. We're talking about people from both parties. We're talking about people who donate or have donated to both parties. So that's something that people need to keep in mind. But let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I do not want to keep you waiting. First and foremost, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. We have Ultimate, Sabinators. There's Sabsters in the house. There are also Sabbies, and they are not too jabby. And we also have a group called Members. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the screen on the ticker throughout the show. I want to give a shout out to a new Sabby patron. Over here, we like to call them newbies. Let's give it up for Periphery Girl. Welcome and thank you. Hey. Sup? Okay, let's get into it. What are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Again, the theme is Meet Me Outside. Let's go ahead and take a look at that beautiful thumbnail. Meet me outside. in the words of DMX. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Epstein's big club. As you'll see, there's Hillary, there's Trump, there's many more that we are going to get into with the update of new emails that have been released today. They are slowly releasing these emails, and that's intentional. Everybody pay attention to what is happening here, folks. All right. We're also going to discuss this one. Big one. Nick Fuentes is saying that MAGA is done. Nick Fuentes put a call out. He created a video and he went through a number of things to explain why MAGA is done. Is he correct? We're also going to discuss, this is a good news story, a good win here for Aaron Mate. We're going to get into this apology that came from Anna Kasparian to Aaron Mate, which I honestly didn't think I would see something like this happen. So we got some good news in here too. I think this is a good thing and people can move forward. We're also going to discuss Zohran Mandami apparently is terrifying the Upper East Side moms. Oh dear, no. All the rich women that have nannies that take care of their kids and their nannies hang out in Central Park. They are scared of Zohran. We'll get into that. And last but not least, we are also going to discuss this new information that has been revealed about Charlie Kirk, going back to that Turning Point USA event where Tucker Carlson spoke at length. There's new information that has been released about that I think you guys need to hear, especially if you haven't heard that already. So let's do the damn thing, guys. If you haven't done so, please do me a solid, ladies and gents, and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. All righty, let's keep this party moving, ladies and gents. Again, the theme is Meet Me Outside. Let's get into the first story. Zohran Mandami, ever since he has won the mayor election for New York City, he's still getting a lot of heat from people. You know, first they said, oh, there's no way this guy is going to win. Then he won, and now people are still giving him heat because they don't like the fact that he won. And in particular, Upper East Side moms are upset and scared and terrified of Zohran Mandami. We are talking about women where, from my experience when I lived in New York, a lot of the women that live on the Upper East Side have nannies. They have a stressor taken out of their life because they're not even raising their own kids. The nannies are raising their kids. You can go to Central Park in the afternoon and see this for yourself, Monday through Friday. All the nannies gather together and the kids play. But they are so afraid. They're talking about leaving. They're thinking about going to Florida or New Jersey. Let's get into it. This article here is the damning one. It's from The Cut. From The Cut. The Upper East Side moms are not happy. They're scared. Get me out of here. Upper East Side moms are melting down over Mom Donnie. A 35,000 person Facebook group devolved into panic and infighting after the mayor election. Let's make this a little bit larger for the people in the back. Here we go. After the NYC mayor race was called for Zohran, that night of November 4th, the mothers of the Upper East Side began to panic. Shocked, one Facebook user wrote anonymously in the Moms of the Upper East Side group, also known as Muse, which has 35,000 members. With all my love for NYC, I can't believe 50% of the city voted for this joker. Wondering who's actually leaving. To where? Florida, ? Residents of the neighborhood synonymous with Gilded Age mansions and Tony private schools had voted for Andrew Cuomo, a staunch supporter of Israel who campaigned on a tough on crime agenda by a 24-point margin. The more than 300 comments responding to that anonymous post are full of mothers looking for property in New Jersey or Florida, predicting that Mamdani's promise to make buses free will lead criminals to sexually assault people and kill innocent passengers, and airing their worries that New York City is on its way to becoming a 1930s Germany. This is a class issue. In other words, the wealthy, rich women of the Upper East Side, they don't want to mix with the low life people. They don't want to mix with the poors. We don't want those poors around us. We don't want just anyone to take the bus. Not to mention, a lot of those women have drivers. They have a car. A lot of them don't take the bus. It's really weird to me. They're acting like all of a sudden they're taking public transportation. This is where we're at now, folks. They're that terrified. Let's continue on. A vocal minority of the group members jumped in to debate these reactions and point out the Islamophobic subtext of the anti-Mamdani mania. It is racist to just be mad that your new mayor is a Muslim. Or they're asking, it is racist to be mad that your new mayor is a Muslim, which only led to further fighting in the comments. As more combative threads cropped up over the next 24 hours, some users pled for each other to get a collective grip. I want to say something about this here. I think sometimes people are surprised by this in New York City, especially if they've never lived there. But New York City is probably one of the most diverse cities and probably the most diverse city in the country. You meet people from everywhere, literally everywhere. And I think sometimes that people may assume that because it's that diverse, that everybody there is okay with each other, that everyone is welcoming of each other. And that's not necessarily the case. You still have Islamophobia. You still have other forms of racism in New York City with all of that diversity. Now you're just seeing it in a thread. Let's continue on here. Others posted they were quitting the group they'd come to for swapping advice on strollers and nannies. See what I mean? Not fleeing the city, one wrote, fleeing this group by Muse. A secondary fight broke out over the many members posting incendiary comments anonymously, which forced the moderators to create an anonymous posting rules section over the weekend that read, "You may not attack or threaten other members while anonymous or ever." Facebook mom groups are notorious hotbeds of drama. A dueling group called UES Mamas has made headlines for explosive infighting over the pro-Palestine and BLM movements. But one Muse member told me that she thought Mamdani's election had caused the most heated division in that group. When I first asked to join, one of its administrators told me she was too overwhelmed by managing the thousands of comments coming through to approve new members. These are wine moms, the moms that sit around and drink wine all day. You guys have seen Real Housewives at some point, right? They have nothing else to do. A lot of them are not raising their children because they have nannies. A lot of these women have no stress or troubles in the world. They're very wealthy people. So they find things to get upset about. They find things to stress about. And they sit around and drink a bunch of wine. Who can we start a fight with today? The Wine Mom Club. I saw this also. There's a city in Massachusetts called Newton, Massachusetts. Is one of the wealthiest cities. It's right outside of Boston. You got a lot of them there too. Like the crime rate and everything in Newton is relatively low. And it's like they find things to complain about. They find things to whine about. That's Newton. You'll probably see that in Weston, Massachusetts as well. These are bored women who have nothing else better to do. Let's get into this part here. Robin Reeder, a single mother with a 13-year-old son, didn't hesitate to jump into the mix in response to a commentator who told angry members to get your panties out of a crunch and just relax. We are literally terrified that a mayor who won't condemn Hamas and won't condemn the phrase globalize the intifada is now running the city with the second largest Jewish population in the world. That came from a 49-year-old writer there. It goes on to say, reader who has appeared on Fox News as a parent concerned about migrant shelters and her son's screen time seems to relish in a catty back and forth, especially with these Muse members who spew anonymous opinions. I think people rage bait a lot in that group. You can't come at me or expect me to have any kind of respect for your point of view when you can't even identify who you are. Reader says that she's now considering a move to Hoboken, New Jersey, as a result of Zohran's win. It feels very immoral to me at this moment to pay tax dollars to a city that just elected someone who would love to see my people murdered. So here we go. So now they're exaggerating. Zohran said nothing of the sort. He has even backtracked on his opinion about globalize the Intifada. He's even walked that back. But they all of a sudden they don't know about that, or they're pretending not to hear that, right? So this is that forever the victim mentality that I was talking about. Everybody's out to get you because they don't prioritize you. It's a dangerous thing. Dangerous thing. Again, bored women with nothing else better to do. Goes on to say here, we're all looking for an out because I can't jeopardize the safety of my son. She's not the only one looking to flee. There are 360 comments on a post titled Where To Now, where members shared real estate agent contracts and bragged about their second homes in red states. One recommended realtor was Elise McLeod, who moved her family from the Upper East Side to Boca Raton during the pandemic. She told me she had a surge of inquiries from New York-based families looking for property in Florida since Mondami's win. So if you live in Florida, look out because it looks like some of them might be coming your way. I am so sorry. I am so sorry for you. A lot of these women are women who don't know where their kid is half the time. Couldn't tell you who the kids are hanging out with. Some of them don't know where the husband is either, but that's a whole other story. I had a coworker who was a nanny before. She told me some things. A lot of these rich people, these rich families are not happy people. They have a lot of money, but they also got a lot of drama because they don't have nothing else to strive for. It gets to a point where you become so rich, you have nothing else to strive for. And it's just like, what am I going to find to complain about? So remember that, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of these people are just unhappy people. And because Zohran said, we're all going to come together, they see this as an insult because he is not choosing to prioritize their particular group. And this goes back to something I said before. That whole fight from Bill Ackman about pushing back against DEI at the universities and, of course, the employers as well, that wasn't really about his disagreement with inclusivity. That was about the fact that his particular people weren't prioritized, right? So this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. It goes on to say here, April, who says she is one of the few Black moms in the Facebook group and asked that I not use her name, her last name, scoffed at those members of the group talking about fleeing New York. No, you're not, she says, just relax. The fiery debates don't make her want to leave that group because the group helped her find the best Montessori school for her son. Motherhood is political, she says, even if the group takes it too far sometimes. She finds any comparison between Zohran's New York and Auschwitz to be ridiculous, and she especially hates when members of the group who voted for Donald Trump say that Zohran is not qualified to run the city. She vented this frustration on a thread where moms debated the baseless accusation that the mayor-elect plans to implement Sharia law. It's always mind-numbing when folks bring up, for instance, Zohran's lack of experience when the entirety of this current administration are the least qualified. Most WTF choices arguably in American history and are the reason Zohran even stood a chance. So what I want to say about this, folks, first of all, for the Black woman that's in the group, heads up, bruh. What do they say about you when you're not around? What do they say about you when you're not paying attention. Something to think about. Something to think about. Wine moms who have nothing else going on, nothing else better to do. Now, what is Zohran doing right now? He's going throughout the city trying to meet with people, different people. I saw he was at a soup kitchen. So this is not someone that's not meeting with people. I literally see videos of this guy on social media every day meeting people. Even after he won, still meeting people. He went to the synagogues to meet with Jewish New Yorkers. I mean, I don't get this, right? So I think we all know what this is really about. It's not like he's one of those mayors that is avoiding the people. He's out there. He's in the streets. He's talking to everybody. And he hasn't even started his term yet. And he's still out there meeting with people. So it's just, it's still damning to me that people are more offended, these wine moms are more offended by the fact that he understands what is happening in Gaza and said that there should be equal rights for all. By the fact that he said, well, we can't really go after this because, there is free speech, etc. Like, they're more offended by that than they are by all those kids that have been killed in Gaza. Let that sink in. Now, he's not the only one here. They're not the only one. Listen to what Benjamin Netanyahu just said about coming to New York.
I want to ask you about the new mayor of New York City, Mamdani, who said very robustly and confidently that he would arrest you should you step foot in New York City. He's softened that stance a little bit over the last, 12 hours, saying, well, foreign leaders can travel wherever they like. Are you afraid now of going to New York City? Will you not go because of that fear, even though really he's got no means to back that up?
The answer is no, I'm not afraid. And the answer is what do you want me to say about Mamdani? I mean, what about him?
So this is another thing, right? Where Benjamin Netanyahu is one of the people that he said that he would arrest if he came to New York City, right? So here's the thing, guys, for years, I have watched people like someone like a Matt Walsh, etc. I've watched people say, don't focus on identity. Don't talk about identity politics. But those same people seem to be totally fine with focusing on identity if it is a certain one. And that includes someone, Benjamin Netanyahu. He wants to be a priority. He wants his people to be prioritized. He wants his people to be seen as we are the most important. And this idea of that supremacy, that this is all a part of Zionism. And the problem that is happening is that a lot of people in the US have woken up. They've woken up. And you can't put that genie back in the bottle. So these wine moms who are complaining, people like Benjamin Netanyahu, etc., if they have a problem with Zohran Mamdani, then they should just meet him outside. He's outside. He's in the streets. He's meeting people. While you guys are sitting back and throwing back wine and ignoring your kids and forgetting their birthdays, things like that, not knowing where your husband is, while you guys are doing those things, he's out there in the street meeting with the people. So go out there and meet with him and talk to him face to face. Why is the solution always to run? Why is the solution always, let us just get up out of here? These are questions to ask. These are things to think about. So Zohran is outside. And listen, do I agree with everything when it comes to Zohran Mamdani? Well, no, like I've criticized some of the ways that he's pushed back. I criticized him pushing back on globalized intifada. I criticized him apologizing to the NYPD. I criticized him keeping Jessica Tisch as the police commissioner. You got to hold people accountable. But these women just want to run away and go to another place where they will be considered the priority. And that's a problem. These are things that we have to call out, things that we have to address. So Zohran's outside. Those women need to go meet him outside. That's simple. That's simple. Let's get to some of the comments, ladies and gents. Cloudness says, Sabby, let's cook, roll something, smoke something, black first, peace. Thank you, Russ. Sabby, look forward to another great podcast. Don't hold back. We need to hear the truth. Keep up the great work. I am trying. Thank you, Brad. Meet me outside. Is Sabby a human sapphire hunter? Whatever happened to the woman? Remember the girl that said, cash me outside? Whatever happened to her? And thank you for this one, Brad. Sharia law is cover for Zios wanting Noahide laws. And Malty said Zionists are losing badly. Yeah. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. All right, ladies and gents, we're going to move on to the next story. We're making good time. If you haven't done so, smash the like. Let's keep it moving and grooving. And let's keep this party going on. Yeah. Okay. You might laugh a little bit about this story, and that's okay with me. I think we need some laughs. There's parts that are somewhat funny, but at the same time, there's a lot of truth that is being said here. After everything that has happened, and it's not even December yet, we are still in Trump's first year. Nick Fuentes made a very strong statement that I think everybody needs to hear. Nick Fuentes has said that MAGA is done. And I got to say this. I think Donald Trump, how do I want to put this? Oh my God. For those who supported Donald Trump, looking back on it, you probably should have had someone else. Now, I didn't support Donald Trump, but for those who did, look back on it and think about it if you think it was a good idea for Donald Trump to have another term. Because here's the problem. Donald Trump's not doing well. His polling numbers are, his approval is down. Part of that is because of the Epstein case. Donald Trump is ducking from reporters right now. Right before I went live, I saw that. Donald Trump is ducking from reporters because he doesn't want to answer any questions about Epstein. And Donald Trump was considered to be the leader of that MAGA movement. Nick Fuentes is someone who supported and advocated for Donald Trump. And something is happening in the Republican Party where some people are going towards Nick Fuentes' side and others are on more of like the Ben Shapiro side. But the numbers don't lie. The numbers are showing me right now. I looked on Social Blade. Ben Shapiro is bleeding subscribers. So people are asking this question. What is the future of the Republican Party? Because according to Nick Fuentes, he said MAGA is done. Let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gents.
Is really crushing after 10 years is the message. And it's like Trump is getting old. His movement is getting old. America's getting old. And it feels like as Trump loses energy, as he has been defeated in a way, it feels like the movement is being defeated. The movement that he built is just, it's out of ideas. It's out of steam. We tried it. We thought we could do it. We can't. We gave it one last try, one last push. Make America great again. Let's do it. Never mind. Everyone go home. We actually do need the Indians. We lost. We were wrong. The elites were right. We're worthless. We need Chinese money. We need Indian programmers. That's the sense of dread. And this is why I said a year ago, it really is about the vibes. I said this a year ago. Trump is old. He's tired. He's not funny. He's low energy. He's monotonous. I said, and his movement is dead. Like, his movement is not dynamic. His movement has been captured. Look at who's at Mar-a-Lago. It's all grifters. When Trump started, it was all true believers. When Trump started, it was like him and like a dozen people with a dream. And they were bootstrapping it. They were just doing these rallies, flying by the seat of their pants. And they're like, can we win? I don't know. We're going to try. And all the careerists and all of the parasite political class, they hated Trump. Now they're all in Mar-a-Lago. Now Mar-a-Lago is just the king's court, and it's all ass kissers and brown nosers and grifters and shills and the worst people imaginable. His endorsements have become a business. Access to him, photos with him have become a business. Like, all of the shills from 15 are now on the inside. All the people that hated MAGA are now the biggest MAGA supporters. Trump has been fully assimilated. He has fully been compromised by the GOP.
Here's the thing, because we've been talking about this for quite some time, right? That Donald Trump is a billionaire. Like, look at the people that he hangs with. Miriam Adelson. He didn't just meet Miriam Adelson during this, this second time around, the second election for him. All these people run in the same circles. All of them. And at the end of the day, he's going to look out for his rich buddies in big business. Problem is that when you run on a message of populism, when you run on a message of we're going to fix the economy, which is what he said, this was like his thing. We're going to fix all these things that Biden messed up. Also, when it comes to Gaza, right? He was going to end that. There's no real ceasefire in Gaza. Israel's still killing Palestinians. So there were people who voted for Donald Trump that believed that. Now, I never believed that, but some people did. And that includes the Arab Americans, some of the Arab Americans in Michigan. When Donald Trump came to visit them and he said, I'm going to end it, that's why some of them voted for him instead of voting for Kamala or instead of voting for Jill Stein or Cornel West. Trump has fallen so hard. And also, people are looking at the economy. People are looking at the economy and they're like, wait a minute. Trump says that the prices are not increasing, but they are. And they are. I'm the one that does the grocery shopping. I know they're increasing. And people aren't being fooled by this. People knew they had economic issues under the Biden administration. Trump said he was going to fix that. People are like, the prices are still continuing to increase. One of the most important things a lot of people care about is the economy. They care about their pocketbook or their wallet. And then you got this whole Israel thing, which he didn't have to deal with this among his own base during his first term. But this time around, after, Gaza, after genocide, things are a little bit different. Because you see, some of the podcasters that supported him and advocated for him have turned when it comes to Israel. Podcasters with big platforms like Tucker Carlson, like Candace Owens, like they have a big platform and they are not willing to put up with it. They turned on that. That's also a problem for Trump. Then, of course, you have Nick Fuentes, who also does not support Israel. So this time around, Trump is dealing with something that he didn't have to deal with during his first term. I never would have imagined that Republicans would have been turning away from Israel. I never would have thought I'd see it ever. So is Nick Fuentes correct that MAGA is dead? Let's continue.
And there's nothing risky, nothing edgy. There's no entrepreneurial spirit. Look what happened to Elon Musk. Elon Musk came in. He was maybe the last push because he's a little younger and he bought Twitter and, he's the rocket man and everything like that. Elon came in with Doge. He got chewed up and spit out in 3 months. Elon was a little bit of energy. Like, he was kind of like a little shock therapy for MAGA. And he lasted 3 months. He said, we're going to come in and we're going to bring in all these young guys and we're just going to move fast and break things. We could just do things. Remember, we could just do things. We're going to cut $1 trillion from the deficit. He got chewed up and spit out in 3 months. And now look at where we are. Nothing Nothing that has been promised has come to fruition. Can we end the wars? No. Trump wants to go back to Afghanistan. We're bombing Iran. We're building a base in Gaza. Mass deportations, Trump says, not so fast. We actually need all the people. We need the illegal farm workers. We need the illegal hospitality workers. We need the illegal construction workers. We're going to shut down H-1Bs, foreign students. Not so fast. We need all those Asians to fund our universities and do all the jobs that Americans are too retarded to do. Cut the deficit, forget about it. Epstein files, they don't exist. Can't afford a home? Well, get lost. Here we are a year in, your golden age. And it was rotten from the start because the donors got involved. And you have to understand that these things go hand in hand. When Trump started, he was not surrounded by the money. When Trump started, he funded his primary campaign with like $70 million. And it was just him and a small staff, and he was on Twitter, and that was it. And that's why it was energetic. That's why it was daring and risk-taking and exciting. And what happened really right after he won the election the first time in 17 and 18 is that all of the interests surrounded him, the money, the shills, the personnel, the bureaucrats.
But Donald Trump was still taking money from the Israeli lobby during his first term. Donald Trump was always still surrounded by rich people. He's a freaking billionaire. So he was always still surrounded, by those people. But I think what Nick is saying here is that in so many ways, I guess it wasn't as obvious, and he did fund a lot of things like for his first campaign. But those relationships, as we have seen with these Epstein emails, he always had these relationships with big, powerful people. And the reality is this, folks. What is going to happen here? In 10 years, we have watched the Republican Party change twice. Everybody realize this? When Donald Trump won in 2016, this whole Make America Great Again, his call out or focus on the workers and all that type of stuff, at least when he was running, there was this shift. A lot of these Republican politicians that said they would not support Donald Trump when he was running for president the first time, they all caved in. That includes Lindsey Graham, who just moves however the wind blows. Ted Cruz was one of them as well. They all caved in and moved right along to accept Donald Trump and to work with Donald Trump. Remember that. So that was a change that happened in the Republican Party. Donald Trump came in and he started to change the Republican Party. Now we're seeing another shift. We are seeing a segment of the Republican Party move away from Israel, move away from the constant wars. And in those two areas, they will have agreements with some on the left. And that's a problem. That's a problem. If you're AIPAC, if you're Kufi, that's a problem. If you're Miriam Adelson. So now we're seeing another shift. Because here's what I think, guys, because I'm telling you, if you look on Social Blade, you will see Ben Shapiro is bleeding subscribers. This next wave that's coming through, it seems like it's people who are seriously focused on America first, instead of we got to protect Israel. And yes, we have to have these wars because we have to keep America safe. It seems like these are people who really do want to focus on America first and not everybody else and not the wars. And I guess you could put Marjorie Taylor Greene in that camp too. What I'm saying is that could possibly be the future of the Republican Party. That this new change that's coming through. 10 years, we've seen two changes. What is the change that we've seen with the Democratic Party? because the squad came into the Democratic Party, but Democrat leadership would not allow them to change that party. That's why they got rid of Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. The less squad members they have, the more the leadership has an upper hand. So this is always something to think about. Why is it that in the Republican Party, they're able to have 2 changes within 10 years, and the Democratic Party is still boggled down by the same old guard, the Chuck Schumers? Think about that. Let's continue on.
And the second that happened, they poisoned the well. And suddenly it became cautious and conventional and boring and safe. And suddenly it became about everyone getting a handout. Suddenly it became about patronage. Everybody getting their back scratched. Everybody getting taken care of under the table. Israel lobby, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, the corporate tax cuts, moving the embassy. It became about everything other than the people. These things go hand in hand. And this is what I said last year. Like all of these ideas that we talk about on the show, about personnel, about the Israel lobby, about the Trump campaign, about why things aren't happening quickly or at all these things are deeply related. If the Heritage Foundation is controlled by Israel lobbyists, if the Republican Party is controlled by the Israel lobby and the interests, if they're policing the young people in the speech, if they're working for the donors and the rich, then you're never going to get the good policy. You're never going to get your American revival. They're fucking killing our country.
Yes, Angie, Nancy Pelosi is right, is out. You're correct about that. That is a start. That is a start, right? Now he's getting into the money. And here's the big thing that I like to complain about a lot is the corporate money, the big money that is involved in both of these parties, right? So that is why we don't get a lot of these policies that many of us would like to have, whether it's universal health care, whether it's paid sick leave. It's so funny. Like people in Europe, they're like still shocked if you tell them we don't have paid sick leave, or you tell them we don't have health care for everyone in this country. They're like, what? Our neighbor to the north, Canada, they have it. So as long as the big money is there, and that's a big part of the problem. So all of these donors that are donating to these politicians, that's who the politicians really work for. Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, AIPAC, Kufi. Don't forget Kufi is also Israeli lobby too. A lot of the evangelical Christians will take money from Kufi. There's also J Street. That's like the liberal version of AIPAC. Like there's so many. You have lobby interest groups writing legislation in Congress. That is insane and should have never been allowed. Never been allowed. But the money is controlling all of it. Big money.
Every time the president of the United States says we have to take care of the universities before the young people, we have to take care of Hyundai and the South Koreans before we train up our own workforce, they're killing our country. They're murdering our country in order to satisfy all the special interests and give the political kickbacks. We're literally murdering our country. And the whole idea behind Trumpism is that we could transcend the petty politics, the wheeling and dealing, the quid pro quo, the money power. The idea was if we could transcend that, if we could have the people elect one leader, and if he wasn't beholden to the interests, he could get in, hire the right people, and just fix it.
I continue to say that, I mean, if I had it my way, every political campaign would be a grassroots campaign. No lobby interest groups, no AIPAC, no Blue Cross Blue Shield, none of that. And for people who will push back and say you can't win with a grassroots campaign, that's a bold-faced lie. Like we have politicians in Congress right now that have won running a grassroots campaign. But if it were me and I was able to make that decision, oh, no. Another thing, Citizens United. Citizens United, which now has this clause that says that corporations are people. That also needs to end. There was a push for this a couple years ago, I feel like, to end Citizens United. Then it kind of just went by the wayside. That needs to come back. We need a movement around that as well.
And everybody'd be unhappy. The media'd be pissed. Everybody'd be pissed. There'd be pain and economic pain and maybe chaos. But with a firm hand and with consistency and with leadership, that we could actually revive the country. We would have to break the back of all these self-perpetuating systems that have gotten us to this point. That was the whole idea. That's what made it interesting and exciting and worth supporting. And the second that it backslid into everything that came before, that's when I jumped off. That's when I said, I'm out. But all the idiots stuck around because, a lot of them, they just caught on way too late. A lot of people got red-pilled in like 2021. A lot of the people that voted for Trump in 24, they became conservative after the pandemic. They weren't there for the first time. And so their support for Trump is just like a generic conservatism. It's like a generic reaction to the excesses of the left. And so they weren't there for that magical campaign. They weren't there for that populist moment. And that's why they were sold a bunch of crap by propagandists on Twitter who were telling them it's going to be a never-ending Creed concert. We're going to be drinking Code Red Mountain Dew and playing Xbox. And
when you are with me, I'm free. You guys remember Creed? With arms wide open.
It's going to be the golden age, Vivek Ramaswamy and Tulsi Gabbard are going to put America first or whatever. Like they were just not prepared for that. And now here we are. I was right. I told you so. This is not MAGA. There is nothing MAGA about any of this. This is not America first. None of this is putting Americans first. Every promise has been broken. There are no real victories. Trump has not delivered. It has been one disappointment after another, and that is because of corruption.
I never thought I would see Trump supporters say this, but yes, it's true. And I feel like I've been screaming my head off all year saying he's lying to you guys. Donald Trump is fooling people. The economy is not great. The numbers show that. It's not just about GDP. It's about those damn prices in the grocery store. It's not just about the stock market. It's also about your wallet, your pocket. And to hear Nick Fuentes say that that's a good thing. That's a good thing because it needs to be someone on that side to say it and wake people up and shake people and say, wake the hell up. Donald Trump played you. And it's okay to admit you've been played. I was played in 2008. His name was Barack Obama. And I believed all of that jazz. When Barack Obama was running, you got to understand, like, that was one of the most exciting times for me in this country. When Barack Obama was running and he was talking about universal health care too. People forget. He was running on a populist message. He was talking about everybody needs to have health care. He was talking about we got to end the wars in the Middle East. I don't know if everyone remembers this, but he was talking about that. He said, it's time for a change. Yes, we can. And I fell for all of that. And then he ended up just being like everybody else that came before him. Now, obviously, yeah, he had hurdles that he had to deal with that some of them didn't have to deal with. But the way Barack Obama just sat there those first 2 years, when he could have passed some of those things that he ran on or pushed some of those things that he ran on, it was just baffling to me. To see his response to Ferguson was baffling to me. To see his visit to Flint, Michigan, and pretending to drink the water and tell the people the water's not dirty, it was baffling to me. And I said to myself, who the hell is this guy? So we all been there. And it's okay to admit it happened to you. What I sincerely hope this does is I hope it wakes more people up to just how corrupt the uniparty is. the Uniparty, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, all that big money that comes in. I mean, these representatives represent corporations. They don't represent us. Those days are gone. And I think we do need we need more parties. We need more third parties. We should have as many parties as the UK does. They're like our stepsister. So I don't know. And this makes me wonder about 2028, but it's just like I see people moving and shifting. And I just sincerely hope come 2028 that people don't fall back to sleep again.
That is because the Trump regime, just like every other regime, has been corrupted by money. That's the bottom line. You have been disappointed. You fell for it again. You believed them when they made a promise, which they never intended to keep. They said things to you to get your vote, knowing full well that once they got it, they were going to work for the donors. That's who pays for the cabinet appointments and the ambassadorships. That's who captures the bureaucracy. And that is why the system is sclerotic. That is why the system is slow and broken and unanswerable to the people and not even thinking about the people. And you're almost better off with Biden than with this. This is just like criminal stuff.
Uh-oh. And that is the statement there that's driving some people crazy. They're like, did he just say we were better off with Biden than with Donald Trump? Again, this is someone, Nick Fuentes, who supported, Donald Trump. I continue to tell you guys, you can vote for a politician, but you can't put your faith in a politician. You can't make them your hero, because this is where the disappointment comes in. And I did that. I did that in the past. I did that with Barack Obama. I did that with Bernie Sanders. I was so disappointed when Bernie, they cheated Bernie in 2016 at the Democratic National Convention. I was so disappointed how they just gave states that Bernie won to Hillary Clinton. And I wanted Bernie to fight back. And I'm wondering some things. Like I look back on things and I just feel like even when we look at Bernie 2016 and 2020, he was, I think, a bigger name at that point from what I remember, right? Like his crowd started to get larger and all that type of stuff. But the 2016 campaign, I think, was for the in the mud, raw dog people, like the people who were like, yeah, rocking with him before it was cool and popular to do so. Then come 2020, which I feel that campaign was a little bit more commercialized and a little bit more like, it was bigger, it was out there, but it almost makes you wonder, is it necessarily a good thing for someone to try again? Joe Biden, for example, ran for president 3 times. Third time's the charm, I guess. We can talk about things that happened behind the scenes, how Barack Obama told people to drop out of the race so his good friend Joe could get in there. Was that a good thing? Joe Biden was stumbling across the debate stage, stumbling through his words during the Democratic primary debates. Maybe he should not have run in a third time. These are just things to think about. I think a lot of us can tell that Donald Trump is not the same as he was when he was president in 2016. You can tell when he's talking, you can tell through his motions, he's gotten older, etc. But during a time where there was a genocide happening, the economy was in the pits, a lot of people really believed that Donald Trump was going to fix it and get things on track. And here we are, and we seeing money go out the door to Argentina. Save Argentina, don't save us though. More and more money going to Israel, everybody but us. And I'm so glad more people are waking up.
And I'm not saying I'm at 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't care. But all Trump seems to have done, he's just as bad as the Democrats. The only difference is Trump has given people a false sense of victory. Trump has lulled people into complacency. Yep. Everybody thought the people triumphed when Trump won. He's different. He's talking like the rest of us. That's what is particularly sinister about the Trump movement, is the way that it functions as a Trojan horse.
And now he's trying to, Donald Trump, now Donald Trump is trying to do this type of fake populism where he's passing, policies to make you think that he's doing something for the working class people, like that 50-year mortgage plan of his. And I saw that and I was like, hold up, let's do some math, people. For a lot of people who went through the home buying process, like myself, I'm like, let's do some math and let me show you what this actually looks like and how much you're actually going to end up paying in the long run. Just throwing things out there, but you can give all this money to Argentina. It's blatant. People see it. People have social media. I can tell you back during the day, like, especially during Obama days, I wasn't as active on social media. So I didn't see a lot of this stuff. People are paying attention more now. So, it's wild, fam. It's absolutely wild. People are tired of Benjamin Netanyahu. People are tired of Israel's putting their hand out all the damn time, killing children. People are sick and tired of it. And I got to say this, when we talk about what could happen in the future, the anti-war message is popular. The anti-war message is very popular. Most Americans that I meet don't want war. So these whole days of like the neocon, like Dick Cheney's, and this is why Nikki Haley didn't do well, that message doesn't resonate with people anymore. It also doesn't resonate with a lot of people now in the Republican Party.
Biden was worse. Kamala would have been worse. But at least with Kamala, nobody would be under any illusions. Would Kamala be better? No, she would have been far worse. The economy would be worse. Immigration would be worse. It all would be worse. But here's what matters, and here's the difference. Nobody would be under any illusions about what it is. That it's illegitimate. The elections are fake. The government's corrupt. She's not really in charge. The system hates us. There'd be no love lost there. And everybody would be acutely aware of the problem. You'd have righteous indignation. You'd have anger. There'd be a revolutionary fervor. But instead, with Trump, you get the pressure release valve. And no matter what he says or what he does, 50% of his audience, he has this diehard base of supporters. They'll support it no matter what. If he bombs Iran, they'll support it. If he brings in 500,000 Chinese students, they'll say he doesn't really mean it. If he fails to deport people, they'll say, well, who cares? The border's secure, so what? That's the problem. And so this is when you start to begin to think politically and start to think about what our real end game is. My end game is not to elect Republicans and be marginally better than the Democrats. No, my end game is I do want an energetic president. I want an energetic, forward-thinking, progressive, disruptive, populist executive branch that is going to fucking break the back of the power in the country and put Americans first. No.
That part there was surprising to me when he said the word progressive. I actually saw someone put this in the chat. Let me see if I can go ahead and bring this up here. Plan It Hollywood. Kyle Kalinske always says that he thinks that Nick Fuentes is really a Democrat pretending to be a right-winger to peel away the MAGA folks. I think he's right. Well, this is interesting. This is the first time I heard Nick Fuentes say progressive. So I don't know if everybody else picked up on that. But did you hear that? Okay.
No more kickbacks, no more deals, no more corruption, no more special interests, no more super PACs. We literally need a real leader that is actually popular and in control with agency, someone smart to get in, fire everybody, bring in his own people, and literally make the trains run on time. Literally build the new cities, raise the skyscrapers from the ground, build the factories, put us on a war footing, make the fucking country great again. That's all I'm interested in. If it's not that, I don't want it. So don't tell me the next best thing is this. The next best thing is we're going to elect Trump and he's going to make another joke about how you say Buttigieg's name. We're going to elect Trump and, hey, man, it's better than the Democrats. I don't care. They're murdering our country. On what timeline? Are we going to murder the country in 10 years or 5 years? You're still murdering the country. Trump promised to be that leader. He's not. It's time to move on.
Woo! So here's the thing, and I think more and more people are feeling that way, right? Like, because I've seen some of the comments on social media, and I just think that's really interesting. One thing that I wanted to add here, the reason why you don't see them really focusing on the factories is because a lot of these jobs are being automated. That's another thing. Another thing we really do need to push back on is AI. Now, AI is a tool, and it can be used in a good way or a bad way, but replacing people's jobs is not a good thing. And I think that that's something we cannot get take our eye off the ball with that. This is another thing with the Elon Musk and the Peter Thiel and all of them. When they got together with Donald Trump, I was like, you guys, like, do you know who these guys are? Do you know what they want to do, what they want to accomplish? Sam Altman, when Donald Trump had the interview before he won, when he had the interview with the All In podcast with David Sachs, and Bill Ackman was a part of that at one point too, the tech bros in Silicon Valley. He was guaranteeing them that he was going to give them what they wanted. And one of the things that they wanted was, of course, ways to increase productivity in the tech sector. Whether that means to hire people who already have the experience or are willing to work longer hours for less pay, or to replace people with AI. So these are other things that we got to point out as well. The billionaire class, they don't care. They don't care if you lose your job. They're fine. They own shit. Most Americans don't. Most young people can't afford to buy a home. They can't come up with a down payment to get a home. You got private equity buying up all these single family homes, which I've been warning people about for years. They flip the homes, they increase the price, and that's the reason why a lot of people can't get the down payment to buy that home. You got to tell me why I'm seeing homes that are 50, 60 years old, not renovated. I've seen this too, not renovated, particularly here in Massachusetts, and they're selling these homes for $700,000. Somebody explain that to me. You have private equity and investors buying homes right here in the United States, sight unseen, just throwing money at it. And all these young people continue living in these tiny shoebox apartments. That's not the American dream. That's not the dream I was told about. That's a nightmare. Going a little bit more here.
Now, you can vote Republican. I don't care. But if you are not dedicating yourself as a young person to getting yourself ready for that truly revolutionary moment, then you're just not engaging in politics. That's why I tell people, get ready. Get ready for the moment when that revolutionary leader appears and says, we need factory workers. We need workshops. Someone needs to make the missiles. Someone needs to make the tanks, the cars. Someone needs to make the steel that will build the buildings. That's why I tell people, go to college, get skills, get jobs, be a human Swiss Army knife. Be a spy, be a soldier. Because when that revolutionary government comes to power, we want to go to DC and rule.
So someone already said it in the chat. They said that if Nick Fuentes didn't have the position he had on race, he would be considered a lefty. Yeah. The reason why I wanted to talk about this tonight is because I want you to hear what Ben Shapiro said, and I want you to compare.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up, but the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunities.
So now I want to prove a point, because see, they went from Ben Shapiro and his peeps. They went from, if you're a legal immigrant, we want you out of the country, to now, if you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, you need to leave. Ben Shapiro is wealthy. The young kids today, I worked in the university for over 10 years. I advised college students, and I'm here to tell you, before I left Boston University, I started to see the salaries go down before I left, what these kids were being offered. So the pay has not adjusted for inflation. Prices continue to increase. Healthcare premiums increase every year. But according to Ben Shapiro, if you can't afford it, then you just need to leave. Is anyone going to tell Ben Shapiro it costs money to leave? And two, think about who he's telling to leave. He's not telling the billionaires to leave, the people who are exploiting labor. He's telling the people who can't afford it to get out. We don't want you poors around here. Gets to stepping. I think the class dynamic, we're seeing changes with that, particularly also in the Republican Party. Here's another one here I want to show you. Nick Fuentes said this to Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh was going on and on about, you have to reject doomerism. I have 6 kids. The idea that the American dream is dead forever and there is no way to fix anything. I'm supposed to just accept that and give up on my children's future is repulsive to me. Okay, first of all, you're rich. Nick Fuentes responded and said, you are paid millions of dollars by the Israel lobby to create insipid culture war slop. Meanwhile, your boss tells Americans that they aren't entitled to a job or to live in the city they were born in. Of course, you think the system can still be salvaged. You are owned by it. See, it's a class issue. And then we go to the Tucker Carlson part. I want you to hear what Tucker Carlson said here about the Israel piece.
Mark Levin is already there. And we know that because Mark Levin has repeatedly, and he's not the only one, but he's the most blunt, has repeatedly called for just murdering civilians, children in Gaza because they're Amalek or whatever, they're stained by blood guilt. Prime Minister of Israel said exactly the same thing. They are guilty by virtue of how they were born. So that, by definition, includes women and children. So Mark Levin is not clever enough to keep the implications of these views to himself, and he said them repeatedly on television, just to give you a sense about how Mark Levin feels about human life and the human soul. Watch this.
And I'm supposed to, what? Shed crocodile tears for what's going to happen to these people? I'm not. Maybe I'm the only one who will voice it, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Israel has every right to throw every damn thing it has at barbarians. And if there are innocent people, quote unquote, civilians who are killed, then maybe they ought to organize to take out the government they elected. Tapper and the others are saying there's 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. They're not all terrorists. They don't all believe in Hamas. They really have no choice. Let me ask you a question. Is that how we treated the German people when we were fighting the Third Reich? Well, they're not all Nazis. I mean, you got to fight to win and survive. You can't sit there and figure all that stuff out. Oh, but don't hurt the civilians. Look, we have to defend ourselves. The Israelis have to defend ourselves. The free world has to defend itself. And if there's collateral damage, Well, that's too bad.
25
The point is, we were supposed to learn from the past. We were supposed to learn from those mistakes that no, you don't make collateral damage with civilians. We can also point towards Vietnam. We were supposed to learn from the war in Vietnam. Notice how he called them barbarians. This Israel issue is also a big divider now in the Republican Party, which I never thought I would have seen this ever. But here we are. Even Tucker Carlson is like, what the hell? Doesn't agree with this. And what kills me are the people who call themselves Christians and say that they support this. Well, the Bible says that the Bible does not say that this land is promised to these Eastern Europeans. And we're going to do another segment about this, guys, where we get into, because everybody keeps pointing back to the rapture. We're going to do another breakdown on the show, and we're going to get into that rapture part. Because I told you guys before, I really do believe this is the biggest psyop that has gone around the world.
years ago in this country, people didn't talk that way. They didn't. It was a different landscape, different expectations. The idea of blood guilt, because that's what he's describing there. You should be killed by virtue of who your parents are, who your grandparents were, by virtue of how you were born. You should be killed. You don't have a right to live. You're guilty because you were born, and which of course leads to collective punishment and genocide. That's the basis of genocide right there, that attitude. That was considered totally unchristian and un-American because it is. And if someone said something like that on television, I mean, he'd be probably pulled off the air for that.
So there are changes that are happening. There are changes that are happening. And Tucker Carlson's right there to call that out. People like Mark Levin is utterly, utterly sick, disgusting people. It is so sad. And I sit here and ask myself these questions is like, for people like him, for people like, I forget the other, Batya, for people like them to say, well, Black people, you need to be supporting Israel. No. This is sick. This is the final stage of colonialism. It's the Israel Project. This idea of these settlers from Brooklyn, New Jersey, to move to stolen land in Israel and to expand and conquer in the Middle East. It's sick, it's disgusting. And that's why they don't have any empathy for the Palestinians that are killed. And for all the people, and for a lot of them that are pushing the rhetoric about the rapture, and well, the Bible says this and da-da-da, they're not reading in between the lines. People don't ask, I don't know, just random questions like, who wrote the Bible? Who were the scholars that sat down and wrote the King James version of the Bible? Did they get all the books in the Bible? Did they get all the stories? Maybe they would have worded things in such a way to support a Zionist project. And I sincerely hope that more people start looking into that and start understanding that when I say people have been played, I think you've been played there too. Something's happening there in the Republican Party. And if I were to make a bet, considering that Ben Shapiro is losing followers, if I were to make a bet, I would say it's more likely than not that that party is going to end up moving in the direction of Nick Fuentes, not in the direction of Ben Shapiro anymore. I think the days of Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, Crier, Flyer, whatever the hell you want to call them, I think it's ran its course. I really do. I think the biggest mistake they probably ever made was when Ben Shapiro fired Candace Owens because of Israel. I think they just thought that wasn't going to impact them. I don't think they realized that that was actually going to make her grow even more. I don't think they expected that to happen. So those days are done. Mark Levin, Doesn't want to sit down and have this conversation with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson apparently reached out to him, according to Mark. Doesn't want to have the conversation. Mark, go meet Tucker outside. Go meet him outside. Ben, since you going on all these damn podcasts, hopping over here, hopping over there, talking about you're mad that Tucker Carlson sat down and had this interview with Nick Fuentes, Ben, go meet Nick outside. Go settle that. If I see Ben Shapiro on one more damn show complaining about an interview that happened on someone else's podcast because he feels they broke rank, I'm going to scream. Gonna scream. But things are changing, ladies and gentlemen. Things are changing. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. What the? Someone made an account called Cash Me Outside. Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you, Mountain Star. Mark Levin and Ben ain't MAGA. They be MEGA. Trump left MAGA. Tucker is MAGA. That's what's up. Bring the heat to the street, Sister Sabby style. EG says the left was fooled by Obama and the right was fooled by Trump. Maybe we can address the real problem, capitalism. B says Candace also said that MAGA is dead after Trump said Epstein who? Oh, she must have. Did she say that today? She must have said that today. Mike says Elon sounds like a straight penis. Damn. Kirk says, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I will never vote Republican again. Interesting. John says, I'm glad people like Candace and Charlie have changed their tune on Israel, but their judgment was really bad to have agreed with the Zionist narrative in the beginning of their career. Yeah. Thank you, William. Deportation was a trick to use billions to build the AI mass surveillance police ICE force to control us. Where's the leftover money since we need them? We tried to tell. Thank you, Leggy. Chris LaSala just dropped a video exposing Nick Fuentes pretty bad. Interesting. I don't know who Chris is. Thank you, Mark. I keep saying the left needs to come together in one party. Trevor said third parties aren't viable with ranked choice voting and multi-seat districts. Yeah, I mean, I wish we had ranked choice voting, but I think the thing is the way that you get third parties to win is you actually have to vote for them. Like, you actually have to vote for those people. Thank you, Mark. I keep saying the left needs to come together in one party. Somehow I clicked that twice. Sorry. Thank you, Russ. President Trump, like politicians and presidents in past, has once again promised the rainbow, but has not delivered the rain. And the American people are asking, where is the rain? Meet me outside. I like that. Meet me outside. I can't stand the rain. It's my window. All right. Thank you, William. All people want the same thing. If everyone knew everything was a lie to divide, there would be no reason to fight. I believe hate would vanish. Thank you, Dr. Susan. Trump is Obama rebranded. Orange is the new black. Thank you, Connie. Salvati Fuentes 2028. Bernie was controlled oppo. I would never run for office. I would never do that. Listen, they would have had enough for me on day one. Thank you, Mountain Star. Keep defending freedom of speech to call out the BS. Societies will always have a ranking system, hopefully based on meritocracy and not tribal supremacy nepotism. Call out, vote out the TSN. Thank you, William. Would you be rich if you didn't pay tax? Ben, don't. Thank you, Sherelle. The Israel of the Bible was never a place. It was the name God gave to Jacob, father of Joseph, and his 12 brothers. Ethiopian Bible might be the closest Bible to any truth if you're a Christian. Don't get me started, Sherelle. Let's get it started. Okay. And we're moving on to the next story, ladies and gents. Again, tonight's theme is meet me outside. Meet me outside. Meet me outside. And we're going to a pretty interesting story. This is a good news story. Good news story. I didn't believe it at first when I saw it, and I had to do a double take. But, a couple years ago, there was this big fallout between TYT and Aaron Mate. A lot of this is over the Russia coverage and also some of his coverage in Syria, which I'll show you in just a second. Now, Aaron Mate was one of the earlier people that was debunking Russiagate. And for the people who came out against this earlier on, you had a lot of people, angry with you. Later on, people started to see, oh, okay, I guess, it's right. But if you came out with that earlier on, you were investigating that early on, you were not liked by many. And Aaron was one of those people. So let's start there before we get to the apology, because Anna Kasparian has apologized publicly. Let's go back to 6 years ago when Aaron Mate was on TYT. 6 years ago. What we're going to do now is go way back.
Joining me now is Aaron Mate. He writes for The Nation. He has previously been a host and producer for The Real News and Democracy Now! Aaron, welcome. How you doing, brother?
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. Those are some great organizations. You're progressive, I'm progressive, but we do have a disagreement. So we're gonna have a discussion here about Russia and Trump. And I don't know if a debate's gonna break out, but at least let's discuss. So we have a limited amount of time. I'm gonna try to get through a lot of this as quickly as we can. And so I wanna say up front, first of all, I'm not in the mainstream media and I don't think like they do. So I'm not in the camp that Hillary Clinton would have won if it wasn't for those dastardly Russians interfering.
I know that.
Okay, that's nonsense. And I don't trust the US government just because they say something.
Yeah.
But there are facts and there are things that are more provable and not less provable and more credible and less credible within the US government. Okay, so let's go through the issues one by one. So social media manipulation. So there's the Internet Research Agency in 2014, this is when it begins, and they do propaganda in America. First, let me just admit right off the bat, I don't think that this necessarily swung the election, nor is it necessarily collusion, because it doesn't show that Trump helped them. And it started in 2014. So how would they even know that Trump was going to run for president? But it does seem like they did target America for influencing our elections. To me, based on the evidence that's available, do you agree or disagree with that?
I think they, the way I see them is based on what the reporting about them said before all this election stuff happened, which is that they're basically a social media marketing firm. They're a clickbait factory that does social media posts to attract followers. They then leverage that to sell their pages to vendors, which they did. I think you can look at all their posts and based on what the researchers said that they had a preference for Trump. They wanted to promote Trump and denigrate Hillary Clinton. I have no reason to dispute that trend. But if you look at the majority of their posts, they're not about the election. They're really juvenile. I mean, like you might have seen some of the examples that were in that Senate study recently that came out. Like there's an ad about Jesus helping people with masturbation issues and stuff like that. Yeah. So this is not the makings of a sophisticated social media influence campaign to like sow discord and elect Trump. And so I think that aspect is at minimum very overblown.
So Aaron.
So that's important for people to hear, right? Because again, I think a lot of us remember the whole Russiagate thing. And one of the things that I noticed is that because some people didn't like Trump, they were willing to believe anything that came out against Donald Trump. And the Russiagate one for me was one that I was like, I don't know about this. I haven't seen real evidence to show that this happened. But a lot of people, of course, in corporate media jumped right on that train. And some in independent media jumped on that train at that point in time. So just a reminder there.
I largely agree with you there. So, but I do want to ask you about something where I'm not sure we have agreement. So look, but let me go further in agreeing with you. In that, like at some point there was a hyperbolic thing on mainstream media about, oh my God, they had 4 million Twitter impressions during the election.
It was Pearl Harbor, people were comparing it to
4 million Twitter impressions is like 2 tweets.
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. Okay, it's not that interesting.
Yeah,
but it does appear to me that almost all of the Russian propaganda favors Trump. So that then becomes curious because so for example, the US meddles in everybody's election. So we don't have clean hands, that's obvious, right?
Sure.
And normally our government picks a side.
Yes.
Right? The side that will give us the oil.
Yeah.
Or give our companies the oil, right? And it appears here the Russians picked a side. So that's what it appears to me based on all the available evidence. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, okay, so if we're talking about still about the social media stuff, I mean, I saw all kinds of different divisive posts. And if you look at the detailed studies, they even say, the aim was not necessarily to elect Trump, it was to sow discord. Because again, it's such a small percentage of the Russian social media posts even mentioned the candidates, even mentioned Hillary or even mentioned Trump. It looks, I mean, like again, what I'm saying is I think they picked up on certain demographics. They picked up on, like they targeted African Americans with some stuff, evangelicals, gun owners. And I think they put out stuff that they thought would attract attention and maybe get them followers, basically acting like a clickbait social media firm.
Okay.
So like, on this one, I mean, if you want to talk about the stolen emails, I think that's something that could have conceivably had a major impact on the election.
Right, so let's go to that next.
Okay, so just to give you guys an idea of where we're at here, right? So he was one of the people that was able to debunk Russiagate. I think he may have won an award for that. He either won an award for that one or the OPCW whistleblower report. So the reason why I wanted to show you that is because when people ask, like, why was he, accused of being paid by Russia? That's what some people point to, right? Like if the corporate media narrative is Russia did this and you say that's not the case, I'm an independent journalist and I'm investigating this a little bit further, then people will start pointing fingers at you and say, oh, you're being paid by Russia, right? So I think that's where some of that may have come from at that point in time. As you see during that conversation, him and Jink do have disagreements a little bit there about it. Now, what comes from that? So what came from that was, which it was weird, I couldn't find it now, but what came from that was Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur having another conversation later on. This was about 4 years ago, where they said, oh, Aaron Mate, oh yeah, that independent journalist. And you might remember this, you guys, like, but Anna looked at the camera and she like put up her middle finger and said, fuck Aaron Mate. Remember that? So that was about 4 years ago. And this was during the time that I think they were talking about those the warships, like the Russian warships or whatever. And so Aaron's like journalism showed something different, and Anna and Cenk were agreeing with some of the things that corporate media was saying at that point in time about those warships, right? So that's where a lot of people remember that. So after Anna said that, fuck Aaron Mate, yeah, fuck that guy. She was really mad. Like I was like, whoa, like it kind of got around and people were just like, what the hell is going on with Anna Kasparian? Like, why is she, why is she flipping out like this in this way? And so what happened was Aaron went on to like basically go into different podcasts and explain his perspective. And one of the things that he mentions here was his journalism that was done for the OPCW whistleblower report when he was in Syria reporting there. And he believes what he says in this interview with Rising is that he believes that's one of the reasons why he was targeted by people at that point in time. Listen to this.
In April 2018, the US, Britain, and France bombed Syria after they accused Syria of committing a chemical attack in the town of Douma. And there was video footage from Douma put out by militants who controlled it at the time of dead bodies. And they said that they were killed by a chemical attack. So Trump led the way in bombing Syria. A year later, the OPCW came out with a report basically aligning with the US narrative that Syria was guilty of a chlorine attack. But then we got an extraordinary series of leaks that showed that actually the inspectors from the OPCW who went to Douma, they wrote up a report, and that report said there was no evidence of a chemical attack. And if you read the report closely, you actually see indications that they found evidence that this thing was staged. But instead of having their findings released to the public, people above them censored their report, tried to doctor the conclusions to falsely suggest Syrian government guilt. And basically, these inspectors, after they protested the censorship, they were taken off of the case. And we know this now because of a huge trove of documents that have come out via WikiLeaks and also at the Gray Zone. So I've been reporting on this for the last 2 years. It's an extraordinary story. It's a major pro-war deception, and it's allegations of a cover-up at the world's top chemical weapons watchdog, basically in the interest of the US. So I've been pretty much alone in the US media in covering it. And so the Young Turks, instead of covering this story, have ignored it. And then when I went to Syria and I put out a short video talking about it, that helped trigger this meltdown. So what they've done in doing this is actually helping to bring attention to this story, which the rest of media have ignored, which I'm grateful for. But it also shows how progressive media outlets have been completely co-opted into going along with the talking points and narratives of the establishment, to the point that they're willing to slander independent journalists who are covering such an explosive story, such as a cover-up at the world's top chemical weapons watchdog. So it's been a very unpleasant experience, but on the positive side, it has helped bring attention to this important story of the OPCW whistleblowers. I just want
to pause here for a second. So, does everybody remember the Syrian gas attacks? Like that was like big news. Again, this was about like 4 years ago. That was big news at that point in time. A lot of us, believed like what corporate media told us. But for people who were doing independent reporting over there in Syria, Aaron was one of those people. He was able to get information that showed that, according to the whistleblower that came forward, that those gas attacks were not what we were told they were. And at that time, that was going against corporate media narrative, right? Like, again, people kind of just looked at you some type of way and like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't see these videos of people like being like gassed and all this type of stuff. But he actually went through all the documents and read those reports, etc. And so he started reporting that. And at that time, when he did that, he did get a lot of pushback from people because people are like, what, are you insane? Same thing with the Russiagate thing. When he called out like, the Russiagate and he said it was a hoax, etc., and did reporting on that, at that time, it wasn't popular to do that. So what came from that is that at one point, Anna said that he was paid by Russia. So that was important for people to see. Now, here's the good news. Here we are years later, and this like just blew my mind. I did not expect to see this. Anna Kasparian apologized. This was this week. 5 years ago, I accused Aaron Mate of unfounded claims that he was being paid by Russia, while I stupidly and sincerely believed it at the time. No evidence has materialized to prove it. I'm embarrassed by it, and I owe him, along with his readers, a long overdue apology. And I saw this, and I was like, damn, I did not expect that to happen. Aaron did respond to her, and he said, hey, Anna, I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the speaking out you've done for Palestine. I, in turn, am sorry for any ad hominem comments I made in response back then, not how I want to conduct myself. Oh, and then Anna said, thank you, Aaron. I genuinely appreciate it. So this is good. And I saw this and I was like, here it is years later, right? So Anna could have just continued going on and not mention this or address this. But this is what it means to be an adult. This is adult shit. Owning up to things and saying, my bad, I was wrong. Let's keep it moving. That's being an adult. So didn't pick this coming out of a hat. Didn't expect this to happen at all. But it's what needed to happen. And I think that, and I want to say this, make sure I showed you the last one. This person said here, you got sued, didn't you? And she responded and said, actually, no, to Aaron's credit, didn't feel good about the fact that I was wrong and never apologized. And so this is just one of those things where I got to say this. The YouTube podcast space is weird. It's like bizarre. It's like, listen, I worked in the restaurant industry. I waited tables and I seen some things go down in the kitchen of the restaurant. Okay. I've seen some crazy stuff happen. Talk to anyone who's worked in the restaurant industry. I'm sure they got some stories. But the podcast space on YouTube is wild. There's things that happen behind the scenes that you guys don't see and you don't know about and you don't hear about. I have watched people get blacklisted, not just by corporate media, also by independent media, because they did journalism and had a, opinion or a report that didn't go along with the majority at that time. It happens in independent media too. So I've seen people blacklisted. I've seen people shamed. There have been DM groups that have been known to go around and Discord groups known to go around to tell people not to interview certain podcasters. All this stuff happens. And it's that type of energy that can just make people go, what? Like if all the things that happen behind the scenes happened on camera, you guys would be like, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with these people? It's wild. Some of it is competitiveness. Some of it is like competition. People feel like, well, I need to take this person out of here because competition. Some of it is just like mean girls. Like it's really wild. And I think a lot of times we see a lot of videos that go around that talk about the negative things that are happening between podcasters, right? But we don't see a lot of videos make their way through the algorithm that are positive things that are happening between podcasters. I think this is a good thing. I think Anna making this apology is good. And now they can bury the hatchet and move forward. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, right now, we all are trying to survive and get along in this capitalist system, in this terrible economy. And I think the one thing a lot of us do have in common is, ending genocide, being anti-war, like that type of thing. I think that's something a lot of us do have in common. But ego sometimes gets in the way from what I've seen. And there's some ego in this space. I've seen some things behind camera and I'm just like, very weird. It's very weird. So this is not an easy space to navigate. And what I will say is that I've seen people have friendly relationships in this space and then it goes kaputzo, dunzo, because they disagreed with something someone did or said. I've seen a lot of things happen. And I think that it is good to also acknowledge when something good happens between podcaster and journalists, etc. Not just the so-and-so bites off so-and-so's head, those types of things, right? And we all do it. But I think it is also good to talk about the good things that happen. So that's big girl stuff. And I will say again, that's called being an adult. And I think if more people were willing to do that and move that way in this particular space, I think we could get more accomplished, in my opinion. All right, ladies and gents, let's go to some of the comments and then we'll keep it moving and grooving. Thank you, Mountain Star. Aaron Mate and all the Gray Zone peeps are top tier talent truthers. Gabor Mate tells it straight from the heart. Max and Katie question the status quo. Bless up Anna K, focusing facts over emotions. Thank you, New York Varsity. Tulsi Gabbard was labeled an Assad toady for this. She literally made the trip to confirm this. Beginning of a false flag. And thank you, Kenman. Even Glenn Greenwald fell for the Syria thing. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us did, A lot of us did. And I think, and here's the thing, the first story that goes out is usually the narrative that most people believe. So, Aaron and Anna don't have to meet each other outside. I think they're good. Let's go to part 2 of Type VNC there, Corey, and then I'll get the comment there on Rumble. Thank you. Doo-doo. All right. Thank you for the Rumble rant, Pamela. YouTube smeared Assange dishing nasty shade on most truth tellers and ignored WikiLeaks Clinton DNC. Podestamum on Seth Rich. Sleazy dirtbags are pure prostitutes worthy of nothing but scorn. Okay. Thank you. And we're going to keep this show on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more day before the in-person screening of my documentary. That is this Saturday. I'm super pumped about it. I went to visit the venue earlier today to make sure everything works and do all that technical jazz. And I have a sneak peek for you. It's not the trailer. I've shown the trailer on here a number of times. This one's a little bit different. I want to show you guys. Sneak peek of my documentary. Screening premieres Saturday. This sneak peek is about Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. You guys have got to see this. Mayor Wu considered removing the John D. O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science out of a Black community in Roxbury and transferring that school to a neighborhood called West Roxbury. Now, why is this significant? West Roxbury is a predominantly white, Irish, Catholic neighborhood. You had a mayor who describes herself as the first female person of color to be mayor in Boston, who wanted to take a STEM school from a Black community and put that school in a white neighborhood.
She's taken the land away from us, like urban renewal, moving a STEM school from where it was in Roxbury to West Roxbury, demonstrates this idea of this very authoritarian, paternal, and frankly, patently racist approach to governing that she has to own. When people show you what they are, you should believe them.
Okay, so again, in-person premiere is this Saturday. It's already sold out. And then the watch party will happen here Tuesday evening. Yeah, you will find out some things in this documentary about Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, which is really interesting. I see a lot of people saying they want her to run with ZOHRAN at some point in the future. And a lot of people just don't know like what Mayor Wu has been doing in Boston. And she just won re-election because the challenger that she had that made it to the debates was Josh Kraft, who is Robert Kraft's son. Robert Kraft owns the New England Patriots, billionaire. And he dropped out because he was trying to, like, I guess, buy people. It was just weird. And so it was just her left. So she won that way. Now, she's done some good things, but you'll see. It's not even just her, but you'll see like what's really been happening. At least when it comes to the Black community in Boston, you're going to see what's really been going on. All righty. Skylar goes, woohoo! So excited, Sabby. Thank you. Oh, thank you guys. Thanks. Oh, adorable. Yes, the online watch party will be Tuesday night. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. This one is pretty interesting as well. Megyn Kelly, who is, oh my God, Megyn Kelly's getting crap for another issue, which I'll discuss in the Epstein story. But Megyn Kelly did say some things here about Charlie Kirk before he passed, gave a little bit more information about what happened at that Turning Point USA event that Tucker Carlson spoke at, which apparently pissed off some donors that were donating to Turning Point USA. And I think you guys need, to hear this. Let me go ahead and bring this in.
On the subject of Charlie, I think people who didn't know him may be misunderstanding Charlie. Like, Charlie, he was important. He was hugely important to the conservative movement, but he didn't do it by discouraging debate or trying to tell one faction they couldn't or shouldn't say something, or not saber rattling on something that was like a sacred cow of the administration's. He didn't always do it, but he wanted those discussions to happen. I don't think Charlie would be upset about the debate that's generally happening between, say, Tucker and Ben Shapiro right now in Israel. He would not like how nasty it's getting. He definitely would not support calls to have Tucker, people to stop watching Tucker. Ben's not asking for him to be deplatformed, but clearly he wants him cut out of polite conservative movement circles. He would not be in favor of that. He knew what Tucker was saying, including about Israel, and continued to invite him to Turning Point events. And so I just wanted to tell this story because I think people are misunderstanding. Like, Charlie was all for really robust discussions of very tough issues, including Israel and beyond. It's just he wouldn't necessarily lead them because he did have donors, and he also was very close with the administration. And so I just wanted to say two things. Number one,
let's pause here for just a second. So Megyn Kelly has been moving in different kind of ways. Like, she's coming forward a little bit more here with some information about Charlie Kirk. You're also going to see a video of what happened backstage at that Turning Point USA event. So this is kind of, I guess, her way of pushing back on people like Ben Shapiro, and Mark Levin, who are calling for basically the silencing of Tucker Carlson. They want him to be muted. They want Nick Fuentes to also just lose his voice. And I continue to say this: you don't have to agree with what they say, but I always get very, very ticked off when people start calling for other people to be deplatformed, to be silenced. I have a problem with that. She is telling you that Charlie Kirk would have never moved in that direction. One of the things we can say that we do know is that Charlie Kirk did have debates with people on all different sides, whether he agreed with them or not. He brought people together to debate on different issues. I don't think that Charlie Kirk, if he was alive today, would say, okay, Tucker Carlson, you should be deplatformed. Nick Fuentes, you should be deplatformed. You should not have a voice. And I think this is part of the reason why Ben Shapiro is losing followers, bleeding followers right now. Let's continue.
There was a Turning Point event last July, and many of us were there, and we all saw Charlie. And that was an appearance at which I spent all my time talking about Epstein. It was right after the whole debacle with Pam Bondi promising she's got the file on her desk and she's going to reveal it, and then releasing that 2-page memo saying, oh, there's absolutely nothing to talk about. I don't know what you're referring to with those Fox News hits. They memory hold them. And the FBI got swooped up into it, and it was very controversial. And that is what my appearance was. Not a speech, it was a Q&A. And that is what Charlie wanted to talk about. And backstage, he made very clear to me that he wanted to focus in on Pam Bondi and encouraged me to really go for her. Now,
that part to me was interesting. Focusing on Pam Bondi, going in on Pam Bondi, right? Miss Pam Bondi, who said, oh, we got these Epstein files and we have all these videos and we're ready to go. So that part there, I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't hear about that before. That tells you that Charlie Kirk also had some issues with Pam Bondi. And I also believe, looking back, here's the thing. Some of the people who are jumped on this pro-Israel train, and some of these influencers that are getting that $7,000 per post, as we talked about on the show, also people like Tim Pool, who's jumped on the pro-Israel train and stuff like that. I really do believe that behind the scenes, these people know damn well that they're telling you a lie. I really do believe that behind the scenes, if I were a fly on that wall, they're probably having these conversations off camera at how disappointed they are with the Trump administration, how frustrated they are about Pam Bondi and the Epstein files. But when they get on camera, they're not going to say that, because their job is to keep you where you are. Their job is to keep you asleep.
I didn't need Charlie's direction because I'd been going for her on my show. So it's not like this was orchestrated. He had been listening to my show, and he was basically like, please say all of that right here. And that's fine. I'm like, you're leading the Q&A. Let's do this, which is what happened. So Charlie was not at all averse to seeing Pam Bondi take a hit. he was just too polite to be the one personally to do it himself. So, but he knew that the administration wasn't going to like that, and he was not shy about that. He thought that was an important issue. And who was really hot on that issue in particular? Well, Republicans, yes, and young Republicans too, who smelled a rat and just felt like, do we have the same thing with this administration as we've had with other administrations, red or blue, where, you know, important people get protected and only people with no connections are left to fry? So anyway, that was one example. And the second example also relates partially to Epstein and partially to Israel and involves Tucker. So 2 weeks after Charlie died, Tucker had me on a live broadcast he did of his own show. It was on a Wednesday night, and it was about free speech. It was about a lot of things, and definitely touched on Charlie too. And he and I had a long talk that night. It was actually a great show. Here is Tucker describing his discussion behind the scenes with Charlie. Now, before I play this, Tucker would come under withering criticism for what he said at the Turning Point event. He did criticize Israel. He also suggested he thought that Epstein was a Mossad spy, something I speculated could be true in my own remarks too. I mean, I had no idea, and I made that clear, but to me at the time, it made sense. We've since had many discussions about whether it does make sense. Alan Dershowitz, who represented Epstein, has said Epstein denied that to him directly, and Alan would have used that if he could have to get him off. Ehud Barak has said it wasn't true, and he used to run the IDF in addition to Israel, but he was also extremely close with Epstein. So take it for what it's worth.
He also sexually assaulted Virginia Giuffre, which she wrote about in her book that was just published. Barak, former prime minister of Israel.
Okay. Tucker got criticized by the pro-Israel crowd for his remarks at the Turning Point event. Charlie also had threats from donors thereafter saying, if you don't get rid of Tucker Carlson, like, we're done. And he had received some threats about that even before Tucker's appearance. And he said, well, I'm bringing him anyway. And that's all been documented. This is kind of water under the bridge, but I'm showing it to you for a different purpose. Tucker on that broadcast said the following about his backstage conversations with Charlie before he went out there.
Before that speech that I gave in July, we had a conversation about this backstage right before I went on. And I was fulminating and getting all red in the face like I often do, to my shame. And I was mad thinking about this and thinking about the effort by the neocons in the United States to draw us in to another forever war with Iran. Not a defense of Iran, of course. It's merely an acknowledgement that we've done this before. This happened in Iraq, which we entered into at the behest of those same foreign policy strategists, and it didn't work. And so I was going on at some length backstage with Charlie, and I said, probably not going to talk about that. I'm not going to torture you. I know your donors hate this when I say that. And also Epstein was in the news, and it was clear to me that, Epstein's probably not like a Mossad agent or something, but Epstein clearly had contact with Israeli intelligence and American intelligence and French intelligence, but the only one you're not allowed to talk about is Israeli intelligence. But it seemed true to me, and I had done some work on that, and I knew a bunch of people pretty close to that story. So I thought that. And I said that to Charlie, and I said, but I'm not going to say that because I don't want to make your donors mad. I know it's just going to be like an endless flurry of text telling you to stop or you're going to lose a bunch of funding. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it, and said, go all the way. Do it. Go all the way. I said, man, a lot of things I can talk about. I don't need to talk about that. And he said, do it. So I did it.
So that's interesting. He wanted him to talk about it. And maybe at that point in time, this is something to think about. Maybe at that point in time, he kind of looked at it as though, Tucker, you can say things about this right now that I can't say. Or maybe that he wanted to say, but he knew what would happen if he did. Wait till you see the backstage clip here.
And here's the thing, Stu. I was recently going through some old pictures to find one of me and Charlie that I knew we took at that event. And not only did I find pictures of me and Charlie, but I found a video of me, Tucker, and Charlie speaking backstage right before Tucker went out. Tucker and I were talking. Charlie came over and interrupted for just a second. And you can hear him on this tape, which I've listened to many times. It's very clear on my phone, less clear here probably as we play it. But he says to Tucker, go Max. He interrupts the conversation because he has to say to Tucker something. And what was so important to him to tell Tucker was, go Max. Here it is.
Go Max.
So that part right there. So again, this is that infamous Turning Point USA event that Tucker Carlson spoke at and obviously pissed off some donors. They didn't want him there to begin with in the first place. And then when you look back at what he was saying, he was talking about economic issues. He brought up Jeffrey Epstein, which look at where we are with that today. He brought up all of these different things, and that was like a no-no to the donors, to the donor class that were contributing to Turning Point USA. But what she's showing you here in this video is that backstage, he was telling him, go Max. So he wanted him to go all in. And that makes me wonder if he wanted Tucker Carlson to say the things that he knew that he probably could not say. Remember, Charlie Kirk in this conversation of Turning Point USA at this event, Charlie Kirk was a moderator, right? So other people came out and they spoke. There were also like conversations that happened back and forth. I think this may have been the same one Dave Smith was at. I'm not entirely sure. But he was the mod. He wasn't the one that was, necessarily doing the debating. And so it just makes me wonder, all the people who are saying, like Ben Shapiro and all of them saying like the things that Candace Owens is saying isn't true. She's been able to debunk that. Someone sent this to me. She showed on her cell phone, because they said those text messages that she showed people weren't real. So then she showed the messages on her cell phone. So they're really striking out here. They just keep striking out back and forth. And now you're seeing here, he told him to go Max. He knew what he was going to talk about. He knew what he wanted him to talk about. So why would you tell someone to go Max if you didn't want them to say what they were going to say?
It's quick. It just happens to be on tape. And it backs up what Tucker said. And so I just think we need to be realistic. Charlie understood what was happening to the conservative movement over Israel. He probably understood it better than any of us because he absolutely loved Israel. And yet he represented and was of young people. He was young. That was his constituency. That's where he spent all of his time. And he knew that even on the right side of the aisle, they had turned and were turning on Israel. And knowing all of that, he told Tucker to go out there and do all the things Tucker did. Go Max, he said. Now, why did he do that? Because he knew there was a faction within the conservative movement that needed a voice. They needed somebody to put their thoughts and their complaints and their objections into words in a public setting and not just cede the whole argument to the other side, which has been dominating conservative thought and media forever, the Mark Levins of the world. And so it's one of the many reasons why I really object to this attempt to otherize, snuff out the voice of Tucker Carlson. Charlie knew exactly where Tucker stood on these issues and wanted him, and I quote, to go Max.
So that part right there. So this idea that, maybe he did not know, and what they're saying about Charlie Kirk moving in that way, shape, or form before he was killed is not true. But as time has gone by, we've seen more and more receipts, more evidence to show, he wasn't happy with the donors. The text messages that showed that he wanted to walk away from all of that, walk away from Israel and all that kind of stuff. So that stuff was there. And the thing is this, if we did not have the receipts, let's say Candace never kept those text messages. Just think about this for a second, because I want to show you how people can get played. Let's pretend Candace never kept those text messages. Let's say she deleted them. Let's say Megyn Kelly doesn't have this backstage photo video. Let's pretend none of those things happen. Then it's just their word against like Candace and Megyn and Tucker Carlson. Without the receipts, you don't really have this. And Turning Point USA, they look really bad right now. And the way that they're trying to run cover, just listen to what the FBI said. That's fine. Ben Shapiro, Mr. Protect the Children, and Epstein Files guy, the moment that Donald Trump said, nothing to see here, no files, Ben Shapiro gets on his podcast and says, well, Trump said that there's nothing there, so nothing to see here, folks. And that's what all of them apparently were supposed to do. But you have, again, like I said, this segment now that is not willing to do that. And that's a problem for Trump. That's a problem for Israel. That's a problem for the donor class. That is a problem for the Republican Party. We're going a little bit more here.
The answer to what is happening right now on the conservative half of the aisle is not to silence Tucker, to diminish him to the point where he doesn't have followers. Not that that's possible, you lunatics. Or to try to delegitimize Tucker. If anything, Tucker is a remaining voice for Charlie, whose views were changing himself. So I have nothing against Ben saying all the things he feels, or more neo-Connie people feeling that, or pro-Israel people saying all. I think they should say that, and I understand perfectly where they're coming from. But there is another reasoned, passionate point of view. And Tucker represents that. And that's what he's been doing on his show. It rubbed some people the wrong way, but it didn't rub Charlie the wrong way. In fact, he wanted more of it.
So that was interesting to see. And here's something else that kind of goes along with that. Just telling you about the lies that have been going on from Turning Point USA. Listen to what Candace said here. She debunked 10 lies. Watch this.
So they're allowed to lie. No, that's ridiculous. We will not be following that. Here's our list, and this is by no means definitive, okay? Just getting this together briefly. They told us these lies. The amazing, heroic, magnificent Mikey McCoy had blood all over him. That's a lie, told by Pastor Rob McCoy. Charlie was a committed evangelical who only liked Catholic architecture. That's a lie, told and reinforced by Alex Clark and Andrew Colvett. Lie number 3 is that Charlie's neck stopped a 30-06 bullet because Charlie ate salad. He had strong bones. It was a modern day Christian miracle. That's a lie. The offender is Andrew Colvett. Another lie. Charlie never blinked in his support for Israel. Offender Josh Hammer, Bibi Netanyahu, insert Zionist here, many Zionist, Christian Zionist influencers as well. That turned out to be a big lie, an unnecessary lie. Lie number 5, the magnificent Mikey McCoy called his dad first. That's a lie. Rob McCoy told that lie. Number 6 is Terrell, the AV guy, was told to remove the cameras by police. That's not true. I have every second of his moves. That offender would be Tyler Boyer. Okay. He lied. Number 7, Terrell moved the SD cards because people were stealing hats. Question mark, Andrew Colvett. What if you were scared about people stealing? Maybe remove the cameras?
I also didn't see that in the video. I didn't see people stealing hats in the video, but
very expensive cameras would be the thing that they would steal. What are they going to do with your SD card? They're going to resell that? Like, that doesn't make sense. Those are pretty cheap, right? Lie number 8, Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk never had any bad blood between them. The offender there was Alex Clark. Ben Shapiro was on her show, and I don't know why she tried that little bit of propaganda when she knew that wasn't factually true. 9, Charlie established Doge, and that wasn't unusual. Turning Point financially audits the company every year since its inception. Lie. Doge was entirely different from the apparatus of financially auditing yourself, which is recommended and actually in some states required for a company that size. That's 501c3. And 10, like I said, this is by no means a definitive list. Mikey McCoy was a hero that day. Now, you could say that's subjective, but I feel like that, like objectively, to be a hero, you can't just make quick phone calls. I don't know. I and not include 911 in that list. So I'm going to put that on our list of lies.
So there's a lot of things going on at Turning Point USA. I thought it was interesting to see that backstage footage that Megan did show there. And again, it's just, I swear to God, every time TPUSA says something, trying to push back on either it's the receipts that Candace has, or either it's just pushing back on people who are suspicious that what the FBI said isn't real. They just keep getting exposed. Andrew Colvett, Ben Shapiro, all of them, they just keep getting exposed. It's not looking too good for them right now. It's really not. And I don't know if this is a meet me outside moment, but I will say this, notice that they are avoiding them, right? So Candace put a call out and said, you guys can come onto the show and we'll have this conversation. They're not interested, apparently, right? Megyn Kelly would probably also have the conversation. She sat down across from Ben Shapiro recently at an event along with Tucker Carlson. They were on stage. You guys remember this? So we talked about that as well. But it just seems like they're avoiding the people who have a lot of receipts. They're avoiding Candace Owens. They're avoiding Tucker Carlson. Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson were at the same event. They both talked to Megyn Kelly, but not together. So something's going on here, folks, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, 2025 has been a crazy year. And when I said like 2025 was going to be live, I didn't think it was going to be this live. But here we go. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents. Thank you, Abdurizak. Trump is a narcissist. We should have known in 2024. Well, I knew that, but thank you, Mountain. Go Max. Miranda says, can this guy talk, please, or blink twice if you need help? Oh, yeah, that guy didn't speak at all. That was a rather long clip, and that guy did not speak. Interesting. Miss Kiwi said, Candace Owens said she's going to name the Zionist lady, I think you mean this week, with Tucker Carlson pissed her off. Interesting. Thank you, Mountain. Go Max on 1998 movie Snake Eyes similarities. Gary S. recently on Theo Vaughn. Respect to the vets for minimal regrets. Megan mentoring maturity and integrity. Some arguments are indefensible. Interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're now getting to the big kahuna, the big story of the night, and that is the Epstein email update. I am going to start out this story by telling you once again, these are the new updates. So anything that happened that was reported on Wednesday, I already made a video and covered that. So you can check that out. But this is the new information that has come through as of Thursday morning. When we're looking at everything that's coming out right now about these Epstein emails, notice the process that is happening. It's a slow rollout, right? They didn't just dump everything in one day. They're doing that intentionally. And it's actually very strategic. And I think it is really important for us not to forget who came forward about Jeffrey Epstein, wrote books about Jeffrey Epstein, has written articles about Jeffrey Epstein for years. And a couple years ago, when they started to talk about the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent, they were smeared. They were called a conspiracy theorist. And yet today, here we are. And that person was Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb has responded about these emails. My feeling is that now it is safe. It's safe to release the info that Epstein was really a sex trafficker as a side gig and was mainly an intelligence asset of Israel and the US, a big-time financial criminal on behalf of a transnational capital. I would argue transnational organized crime disguised as transnational capital. And an arms trader, because the people he was helping have stolen so much of America's wealth and have taken control over so much of the government. That is why, even admitting the true breadth of the scandal and operation doesn't seem to move the needle. Criminals are in charge and they run both parties. They have created the infrastructure for neo-feudalism enforced by technology and are herding us into the corral. Opt out of AI, digital ID, and the surveillance state that Epstein associates built because we still can. This message here from Whitney Webb is a very powerful one. And she has been talking about this for years. She has 2 books that she wrote called One Nation Under Blackmail, Volume 1 and Volume 2. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend that you do. It is important that we give credit where credit is due, because Whitney was talking about this when it wasn't safe to do so. Okay? Now let's fast forward. How do we get here? How do we get to the point where 218 votes to force the DOJ to release these files? Let's not forget it was a bipartisan coalition that worked together to make this happen. And that would be Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie and, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Notice how they all came together to do the right damn thing?
Is that right? Well, I think the speaker's concluded if you can't stop the parade, you might as well lead it. And so now he's saying, I want to have the vote. I do think that you could get 30, 40, 50 Republicans voting for it, because what are we talking about? We're talking about rich and powerful men who abused young girls and told people in junior high to go recruit others to be raped or abused. That's what we're talking about. And we're saying that these victims want to expose the men who did this to them. Some of these men still have buildings named after them. Some of them still have scholarships named after them. Enough. And so I think when it's actually a vote on the House floor, do you want these files released? Republicans and Democrats are going to vote yes. Is that right? Well, I think the speaker's concluded if you...
Yeah. So we need to remember how they even got to this point now with the floor vote. We need to remember that like Ro Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie came together to fight for the victims. And you know what's really bizarre? Like, more people should have signed on to do this. Much more people from the get-go. And it's stunning to me. Like, even some of the Democrats didn't sign on to do this. You know? So, and that's because of who Epstein really was. It wasn't just about sex trafficking. He was intelligence for Israel. And this is important because when you see that now Thomas Massie is facing a challenger, Donald Trump and Miriam Adelson and the Adelson money with the peeps, they are trying to get rid of Thomas Massie. They want him out of Congress. Donald Trump working against one of his own supporters, someone who supported him. My opponent is funded by 3 billionaires who epitomize the Epstein class. In fact, one of those billionaires is John Paulson, who appears in Epstein's Black Book. It really doesn't matter what he says while he's campaigning because they already own him. So this is important, guys. The opponent they picked out to go against Thomas Massie is funded by someone who's in Epstein's Black Book. And people want to sit back here and they want to tell me, oh, I don't think Trump knew anything. People want to sit back and tell me they don't think that this country isn't controlled. Look around. When was the last time you saw your representative in person? When we get to the updates about the emails, let's start with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving 2017 is really important because according to Donald Trump, when he was asked in 2019 about Jeffrey Epstein, he said he ended his relationship with him 15 years ago. 2019 minus 15, that would have put that at 2004. So if that is the case, why was Donald Trump enjoying Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017? Here's the email. We have to start at the bottom and work our way up because of the email chain. This is a conversation between Faith Cates and Jeffrey Epstein. Jeff says, hope today is fun for you. Fun? When are you back in NYC? He says, all next week. Okay, Dylan will want to see you. I always want to see you. Where are you having Thanksgiving? He says, Eva. That means Glenn, check out his red hair. He says, Barry's color for holiday. She responds and said, he's such a snooze. Who else is down there? And this is when he goes on to say, David Fizzle, Hanson, Trump. She said, have fun. So again, Donald Trump lied about when he supposedly ended his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, so far, I haven't seen anything in the emails that say that Donald Trump assaulted anybody or was a client. But what I have seen shows that he lied about ending his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. This is 2017. He was president. Let's go on. There's many more to show you. Get comfortable. Here's another one. Jeffrey Epstein's talking about how none of the people are as bad as Trump. Let's look at this email. Again, this is also 2017. This is a conversation between Jeffrey Epstein and Larry Summers, rich Larry Summers from Harvard. Importance is high. Let's start here. Jeffrey says, you're man of the people. And this is an article that he's sharing with Larry Summers about Barack Obama. And Larry responds here. Let me just go up this way. It's okay. He didn't wreck the world and avoided scandal. He's talking about Obama. What does Rumler say? R.E. his attitude towards women. That's Kathy Rumler. Kathy Rumler was one of Obama's advisors who was also in these email chains with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, I know. What was Obama's advisor doing talking to Jeffrey Epstein back and forth like this? Let me continue. Epstein responds, recall, I've told you, I've met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. So yes, very dangerous. That was also 2017. Like I told you, it's bipartisan. You're going to see people in these emails that are Democrats. You're going to see people in these emails that are Republicans. Here's another one between Larry Summers, again, Harvard, and Jeffrey Epstein, where they get into the Rothschild. Interesting. So, Jeff, how plausible is idea that Trump is real cocaine user? Question mark. Goes on to say here, can someone from the development office show Rothschild around Harvard on Saturday? And then a response here from Epstein. Yes, let's briefly discuss. Can you have her write me? So this just goes to show you the group of people. Like I said, it's one big club. We are not a part of this club. So the Rothschild family that wrote the Balfour Doctrine. See, this is all going back to things. Israel, UK. These are very rich, powerful people. Here's another one. Jeffrey Epstein, in an email to former Obama Deputy Counsel Kathy Rumler, told you she was with Obama, suggested providing girls to a list of powerful figures. Let's look at the actual document here so you can see it for yourself, that I'm not hiding this from you. Doesn't look like you're prioritizing your schedule very effectively. That's Kathy Rumler. Let me show you what she's responding to. This is 2014. Girls, question mark, careful. I will renew an old habit. This week, Teal, Summers, Bill Burns, Gordon Brown, Jaglin, Council of Europe and Noble Chairman, Mongolia President, Hardeep Puri from India, Boris Gates, Jabor Qatar, Sultan from Dubai, Coslin from Harvard, Leon Black, Woody. You are welcome guest at any. Also, if you think there are interesting people in town, everyone here for Climate Summit, Clinton, Security Council, holy shit, I'm on blank for next 30 minutes. Kathy Rumler, who was Obama's advisor, goes on to say, doesn't look like you're prioritizing your schedule very effectively. How are you going to manage all of that? This is UNGA week, so the boss will be in town too. I'll be here all week. You may get sick of me. Just sat down on the train, so can't talk freely. That was 2014, so that was during Obama's presidency. Why was Obama's advisor passing these emails back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein? I do want to remind everybody, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't accused just once. Before he was arrested and the trial came forward and all that jazz, and he was sent to prison, he was accused before and they let him go. That was back when he was still over at Palm Beach. You see, before there was that Epstein Island, there were girls that had accused him on Palm Beach. That was years ago. And they let him go. Let's continue. Just hold on, we're moving on. This is another one. Jeffrey Epstein says that Bill Clinton never went to his island. Let's take a look at that email. This is between Jeffrey Epstein and the Duke. You okay? These stories are complete and utter fantasy. I don't know and have never met Al Gore. Clinton was never on the island. The telephone book is not mine. It was stolen by my houseman that is currently in prison for doing so. I don't know which Duke that could be. It says the Duke, so that's probably someone who's royalty. But I want to bring something up. Let's say this is the case and Clinton was never on the island. That still doesn't mean Clinton didn't do anything wrong. As I told you, there were the girls from Palm Beach. He was assaulting women in Palm Beach. There was a young woman who was assaulted, said she was assaulted by him at a party in Ohio. So this is something I think that sometimes people don't really understand. All of the activity didn't necessarily happen on that island. There were people that had accused Jeffrey Epstein, and some of them from the modeling industry, before the people came forward from the island. Nobody stopped them. Nobody stepped in. Here's another one. Or this is a good point. Spencer said, why was Epstein emailing all of these people instead of texting them? Is this just boomerism? Paper trail. I don't think it was a boomerism at all. I think that was his way of keeping a paper trail. Especially as you go through these emails and you start to see there's a lot of conversation back and forth between him and author Michael Wolff. And Michael Wolff, according to those emails, knew exactly what was going on. So I felt like this was a way for him to blackmail those people. Let's keep the show moving on. Here's the Hillary Clinton part. Shout out to James Lee. He always has the best hits on X. James Lee said, Vince Foster did not kill himself. Why am I showing you this picture? The woman on the left is Hillary Clinton. The gentleman on the right is Vince Foster. Why is Vince Foster important? Let's take a look, shall we? Jeffrey Epstein claimed that Hillary Clinton had a sexual relationship with former attorney and White House counsel Vince Foster. Vince Foster unalived himself in 1993. We'll get to that story in just a second, but here we go here. Open this for you guys so you can see it. This is Michael Wolff coming back up again in the emails. Author Michael Wolff. He says, what's the thumbnail on Nussbaum/Foster? Epstein replies, Nussbaum White House counsel. Hillary doing naughties with Vince. That's more blackmail. It makes you wonder if Jeffrey Epstein knew that Hillary Clinton was sleeping with Vince. This guy had dirt on a lot. I'm imagining this guy had dirt on a lot of people. He had a lot of dirt on people. So as you'll see here, Let me tell you what happened to Mr. Vince. Let me make this bigger. My parents were the one that told me about this guy. Vince Foster unalived himself July 30th, 1993. In the spring and early summer of that year, Travelgate erupted. It was one of the series of problems and scandals Foster was confronting, not only for his role as deputy White House counsel, but, as in the case of Whitewater, in his role as personal lawyer for the Clintons. It all took a toll on Foster, and his wife and friends sensed his gathering despair. So Vince Foster comes from the White House, the Whitewater scandal. But he was also working at the White House as deputy counsel at that point in time. He was supposed to be the personal lawyer for the Clintons, and according to Jeffrey Epstein's email, he was sleeping with Hillary Clinton. And that would explain some things. That would explain why she didn't appear to be as angry about the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. Hell, that wasn't the first time Bill Clinton had cheated on that woman. Bill was known for getting around before they got married. Before they got married, she knew how he was. And it always made me think that like maybe that was more of a marriage of convenience or like a business relationship, because she knew that he was going to go places and she knew that she wanted to go places. So she was going to use him as her stepping ladder so that she can get to where she wanted to get, which was to be president of the United States. It makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Here's another one. Let's bring this forward here. Everyone looks bad in these latest Epstein releases. Trump, Obama, Clinton, Bannon, New York Times journalist Michael Wolff, Larry Summers. The list goes on and on. This isn't about children kidnapped. It's about people trading political favors and hooking up with whomever, all centered around Epstein. Let's go. Something I want to show you here with one of these. This is between Thomas Landon and Jeffrey Epstein. Got another call from Connolly. He is digging around again. Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions and why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth. Let's go to the next one here. Also, Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein. I think you should let him hang himself. This is Michael Wolff talking about Donald Trump. So it says down here, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein said, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? So here we go. Epstein talking about crafting an answer for Donald Trump. You see how people with money and power, how they do these things? So it's just, the world's a, God damn it. Shakespeare was right. The world is a stage. It's a damn stage. Goes on to say here, I think you should just let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of a political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. This one is kind of weird. This is between Kathy Rumler, again, Obama's advisor, and Jeffrey Epstein. At the very bottom here, Jeffrey Epstein says to her, you need to talk to boss. You need to talk to boss. So I assume he's referring to Obama because that would have been her boss at that point in time. So you have Jeffrey Epstein, rich guy, Mossad agent, telling the president's advisor they need to talk to the president. Let's go on a little bit more here. Kathy said, agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him. He said, understood. It comes down to a high risk reward, low risk reward, professional, emotional, and financial. She said, most girls do not have to worry about this crap. And that's when he went into the whole girls, careful, I will renew an old habit. And he mentioned all those people. So again, where the hell is Kathy Rumler? That's my question. Where's Kathy Rumler? And why is it she was a part of the Obama administration and she was doing these things? Let's go to the next part, Corey. I told you guys to get comfortable because we got some things to finagle. It's a lot of information and I want to give it to you in pieces. So, all right, now let's bring in the billionaire sultan. Here's another one. Jeffrey Epstein received an email from Emirati billionaire sultan Ahmed bin Salayem in 2011. Subject: smart shoes. Ahmed advises Epstein he can assist with providing shoes with GPS integration to track kids and clients. Epstein responds with thanks, great idea. Ahmed is the CEO of the logistical giant DP World, which has ties to the Emirati military industrial complex. Like, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just about trafficking. This is a global damn ass network. You know what I'm saying? And here's that email here. It is very small. The writing's very tiny, so you guys can't see it. But I just wanted to show it to you so you can see that it does exist. Thanks, great idea. I really like your friend. And again, the subject matter here, GPS, GTX, smart shoe. So it's very tiny. That's why I'm not reading it to you guys. We'll continue on here. Ghislaine Maxwell threatened Virginia Giuffre if she testified or cooperated. Here's another thing that's been revealed. In 2007, Miss Maxwell called, who was living outside of Sydney. Miss Maxwell told that Mr. Epstein was being investigated and that if she refused to cooperate, she'd be taken care of. Told Miss Maxwell that she wouldn't speak to anyone, but she declined compensation. A few days later, Mr. Epstein and his lawyer called to hear directly from her that she wouldn't be speaking to anyone. So that was a threat. And this is the person that Donald Trump considers pardoning. She threatened Virginia Giuffre, and then Virginia wound up dead. Because Virginia came forward anyway, and she wound up dead. So just put the pieces together here, folks. I want you to hear a little bit here of what Drop Site News had to say that they discovered as well a little bit. Listen to this about the intelligence side.
You reveal that this senior Israeli intelligence officer lives in one of Epstein's apartments, had close personal ties to former CIA director Leon Panetta. Can you talk about what specific intelligence gathering operations you believe that Cohen was conducting from Epstein's apartment? And also, the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, which has been documented over and over again.
So a lot of the information we have now coming out about these intelligence ties do come from private correspondence between Barak and Epstein, which were leaked by hackers some years ago and posted online, but have never really been analyzed in great detail, but shed profound light on Epstein's ties, not just to Barak, but officials all over the world and foreign governments in Africa and Central Asia and Europe and Russia, whom he was helping connect Barak with. Interestingly, Barak was relying on Epstein's support rather than vice versa, despite the fact that Barak was a very powerful figure in the Israeli security establishment. And so these emails, in addition to House disclosures, which also pointed the same information, showed that this intelligence agent, who was a longtime military intelligence agent in Israel, who was Barak's chief aide for many years, lived at Epstein's house for significant stretches of time, weeks at a time, between this period of 2013, 2015. He was staying in Epstein's house. We don't know specifically from the communications what they may have been working on or what his role may have been there, or the reason he was staying at his house. Barak would also stay at his house sometimes to hold meetings and to do business in New York. That was facilitated by that. But we do see that they were corresponding. And at one point, Epstein does transfer money to Cohen. And there is also communication between Barak and Cohen in the inbox, which we believe is coded communication. perhaps referring to dead drops of information or something else in New York City that they're engaged in. It's hard to tell, because part of the reason that this correspondence is interesting is that we knew from the Snowden disclosures many years ago that Barack and Cohen were being surveilled by the NSA in New York around this time, or in the United States around this time. So whatever they were doing with Epstein, or in his house, in New York, amongst each other, with money, with sharing information or data or packages or something else, it was taking place in this period. And again, the interesting thing is that even if one would not look at the emails and keep those separate, this information is in the House disclosures. In Jeffrey Epstein's calendars, it's mentioned the Cohen's coming and going from his home and the day of his departure, that he was staying, how long he was staying for. So this is stuff that the media could be covering, the broader media could be covering. It's just escaped attention for reasons which, one can speculate, or it's hard to say exactly. But we're going to continue drilling down this, not shying away from the political implications of his activities, Epstein's activities, and the ties he had with powerful figures like Barack and intelligence agents like Cohen.
And Barack, again, remember, was the one that Virginia Giuffre said in her book that was just recently published that he was he sexually assaulted her, but he was the most brutal towards her. And that she told Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine that she did not want to meet with him ever again. And the response that they gave her is, oh, well, sometimes it's just going to be like that. She said in her book that she was very much fearful of him. The guy was the freaking prime minister of Israel. This is where we're at now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on. There's more. We got more to show you. So get comfortable. Don't forget as well. Now this is coming forward again. We remind you guys this a couple of years ago. Melinda Gates did sit down and she had an interview with Gayle King. And she did tell Gayle that she was very uncomfortable around Jeffrey Epstein and that she told her husband, Bill Gates, not to be around him. Just a reminder, this is coming back up again because of the Epstein emails.
After 27 years of marriage, their surprising split has become a source of great intrigue. And now questions are arising whether Bill Gates' contact with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein may have played a role. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Melinda Gates was concerned over her husband's relationship with Epstein going back many years. Melinda Gates made her concerns known to her husband, according to the Journal's Emily Glazer.
She expressed her frustration to Bill Gates and really didn't feel comfortable with the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, especially since Melinda Gates is a global advocate for women and girls. And it was already known that Jeffrey Epstein, had his issues. And that dismay was expressed, but Bill Gates continued meeting and having ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
In fact, according to the New York Times, beginning in 2011, Gates met with Epstein on numerous occasions, including at least 3 times at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse and at least once staying late into the night. Gates emailing colleagues in 2011, his lifestyle is very different and kind of intriguing, although it would not work for me, the Times reported. In 2019, Gates told the Wall Street Journal he did not have a business relationship or friendship with Epstein.
Yeah, everybody wanted to back out once he got arrested. I don't know that man. Don't know the guy. Let's keep it moving. Don't know him. And this is bad for Donald Trump because, like I said, the one thing that we can say that I have seen, I've gone through a number of those emails, is that Donald Trump lied about his relationship being over with Jeffrey Epstein. He was still hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017. That was all a lie. He is also making himself look worse because of the way that he responded to the press. Donald Trump is running away from the reporters. Listen to this.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for going. Thank you.
It's a great day.
Thank you.
Well done, Mr.
Good try.
And see, look, he don't look good, does he? Because this is, again, the reason why they didn't want those Epstein files released is because look at all the information I'm showing you, and that's not even half of it. That's not even half of the information. All these names that are listed and things like that. Like, come on, ladies and gentlemen. And then one of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest things, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel tried to corner Representative Lauren Boebert to not vote to release the files. I kid you not. After everything that came out on Wednesday, they scheduled a last-minute meeting with Representative Lauren Boebert to try to get her not to vote along with Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie and them. Check this out. Again, if you do nothing wrong, why are you trying to stop that woman from voting the way that she had already agreed to vote?
It sure looks like Congresswoman Lauren Boebert did a brave thing today. Few people in politics are more polarizing, but put politics aside and consider what is being reported by the New York Times, CNN, and others, that President Trump directly pressured Boebert to help him stop the release of the Epstein files by pulling her support off a congressional petition and sinking that effort. Reports say the Trump White House also brought Boebert into the Situation Room for a meeting with the Attorney General and the FBI Director, who we should note are accused of using the Justice Department to punish people who defy the president. And by all appearances, Boebert did defy the president, despite the pressure and the reported threats, stood firm against the wishes of her party and her president. And not on a political or a policy issue where the public is going to hold a wide variety of views. But
he goes on, yada, yada. The point is, she did not cave. She was a part of the 218 votes. It's a really bad look. And I am watching people, like some of the pro-Trump like content creators on X, trying to wiggle and bend their way out of this. When I told you guys, when they said drop it with the Epstein files, and I told you guys, we're not letting this go. Like, don't let it go. Keep up the pressure about the Epstein files. This is what they were afraid of, because a lot of these influencers, when Biden was president, they were saying release the Epstein files. They were talking about, oh, we got to protect the children. But the moment Trump became president and he said, okay, we're going to release the files, and Pam Bondi said, yeah, we got the files, and they didn't do it, they all went and tucked their tail behind their legs and they whittled away and started to get you to focus on something else. And that's how you know a lot of these people are just captured. Some of these people say, oh, we're independent, we're a little bit different. They're not independent. They're just as corrupt as corporate media. So Lauren Boebert did not cave, and Thomas Massie went on to thank her for that.
I'll spend a lot of effort in the midst of a shutdown to stop a totally pointless exercise that's completely mute. And by the way, I got to give credit to Lauren Boebert to walk into the White House, the center of power, the free world, really, and to sustain that and to come back out and to be solid, and also to Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was all the speculation that they might take their names off, and they never did. So it's not a hoax. It's not a moot point. It is a very serious thing. There are 1,000 victims, and there are survivors who have had a press conference with Ro Khanna and I, and that's what we're fighting for, justice for them.
Did y'all talk to them at any point during this, as the White House was making clear they were targeting these members?
I talked to them. I don't want to say which one I had this conversation with, but one of them was told, we can't let Massie have a win. How petty is that? I mean, this is more than about political wins. It's about getting transparency and justice, which, by the way, this administration promised. You have the vice president, J.D. Vance, you have the AG, you have the FBI director. They've all done a 180 on this.
So the White House said to one of these members that they didn't want you to have a win here.
That's correct.
So everybody see, everything has been exposed. And by the way, does this happen without bipartisanship? Does it happen? You know what I mean? Like, for all the people who keep saying, oh, it's the Democrats are coming after me, it's a hoax. Well, yeah, they're taking advantage of a situation that you kind of, Trump kind of let fall by the wayside. Because if Donald Trump and Pam Bondi had released those files, they wouldn't be in this situation. But no, you guys went out there bragging, saying you were going to release the files, and then you decided to walk back and not release the files. That's how you got into this this information. There's another video here that talks about how people were afraid to vote for it.
Just last night, even before all of these emails leaked out, I was hearing that House members were talking about the fact that they could not, possibly vote nay on this one once the bill was actually on the floor. So there were already Republican members starting to break ranks. And I think these emails just apply more pressure, and you can see a really desperate White House that is responding that way. I mean, the New York Times is reporting that he's calling Lauren Boebert. He's calling Nancy Mace, who is running for governor in South Carolina and would need his endorsement to clear in the primary. But he is working every angle he can to try to get them to remove their names from the discharge petition so that the bill won't come to the floor.
Yeah. So there were people that were afraid to move in such a way. And Leroy's right. They forced the vote by accident. They basically did force the vote. See, forcing the vote can actually work. And here's another thing. We got a couple more I want to show you as well. This woman, this is vote 218. After weeks of Republican obstruction, Adelita Grijalva is now a member of Congress. This was the 218 vote.
Just this morning, House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged. It's past time for Congress to restore its role as a check and balance on this administration and fight for we, the American people. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files.
There it is. And that's what sealed the deal. Lauren Boebert not caving to Trump or Pam Bondi. By the way, can I say something for just a second? The fact that you have the FBI director and the fact that you had him and Pam Bondi and the president of the United States meeting with you in the final hour to try to tell you to change your vote. How corrupt can you be? That is corruption at its finest. So she came through. This is the vote that did it. And that sealed the deal. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are going to have to drop the beat tonight. Haven't dropped this one in a while. Drop the beat. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat. In the street. Woo! All right. I haven't played that one in a while. We will keep it moving, ladies and gentlemen. I told you I got a couple more to show you. This was an interesting point that Cenk Uygur made. It's already been proven by Dropside News that Epstein worked with Israel. And one of his goals was to get us to bomb Syria and Iran. In other words, to fight Israel's wars for it. Not only is national media not reporting this critical fact, they seem to be actively hiding it. That part is key. He was an agent. So see, this was part of the push to get the U.S. to go in and start fighting Israel's wars. Remember, Benjamin Netanyahu was like, got to go after Iraq. Saddam Hussein he's scary. He got weapons of mass destruction. He's a dictator. That's an important point. And we have to remind you, again, Kash Patel, again, before all this came out, this is what Kash Patel was saying. He was talking a big game. He was talking a big game after Donald Trump won. Listen to this.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Well. Just a reminder, because of who's on that list. These people act like these videos don't exist anymore. Now, Benny Johnson gone into hiding because he's still out there kissing Donald Trump's ass, so he's not going to say anything about it. Kash Patel has been in, and I hear a new story about Kash Patel every week. Just in and out of the hot seat. What the hell happened to Dan Bongino? Has anybody seen Dan? Can you find Dan? Anybody? Anybody see Dan? I haven't seen Dan Bongino in a minute, in a hot minute. People are poking fun, and I think it's kind of funny as well. People got jokes. Firkin said they need to put up billboards like this all over the country in every city and every town. Guardians of the pedo. Guys, I'm not joking. Look. Somebody made this GOP. It's, oh my God. It's Kash Patel, Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and JD Vance. Wow, wow, wow. I'm telling you guys, like this is a wrap. There's no getting around it. And they try to distract you with everything. They try to distract you. That's what I was telling you guys about the ICE agents and everything that were coming in. I said, guys, you notice they going after everybody except for the people at the top? You notice they're not going after the people that's committing these big, big crimes? They're trying to distract you, and that distraction is no longer working. According to the new poll that's coming out right now, you will see is the Epstein case that is greatly impacting Donald Trump's approval rating. He is dropping 39 points on that issue alone.
You know, Donald Trump is underwater on basically every single issue he ran on in 2024. But the Epstein files, the Epstein case are especially dreadful for him. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at Trump's net approval rating on the issue. Look, they're all in red. They're all in the negative territory. But on immigration, you know, he's 5 points underwater. Foreign policy, 8 points. Trade and tariffs, he's 17 points. The economy, 18 points. But look at the Epstein case. He is 39 points below water on the Epstein case. His net approval is 39 points in the negative. My goodness gracious. What Donald Trump has been selling on the Epstein files, the Epstein case, the American people, simply put, have not been buying at all, Sarah Seidner.
Oh, no, they're not buying it. And Donald Trump right now is under pressure. How will he do under this pressure? This is bad. Like, this is beyond bad. He's dropping in every category: immigration, foreign policy, trade, tariffs, the economy, the Epstein case. Shout out to the people who did not let this go. He's under pressure.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give him a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. Forever.
So is there any sign that things have gotten better, since there have been some things that have been released?
Yeah, okay.
Although released by Democrats.
There have been some things that have been released. Donald Trump has been trying to make some sort of case saying that, you know, the folks don't necessarily care about it. But take a look here. Approval of the Trump admin on the Epstein case in early July, right, when you had those DOJ droppings, right? It was 17%. Look at where we were by late September, the latest poll I can find it. 20%. You know, we often talk about Donald Trump having this floor, right, of at about 40%. On this particular issue, he is less than half the level of the supposed floor. There is just nobody in the electorate who is buying this. They do not like the way that the Trump administration has been handling this case one iota.
I told you. This is why we said, don't let the Epstein thing go. Don't let that fall by the wayside, because they talked a good game. Derek Bros brings up an excellent point. One of the other false talking points I am seeing circulating from MAGA, RE, the Epstein emails, is the claim that the Democrats sat on them for years and could have released them. However, these emails were only recently subpoenaed from the Epstein estate. By the way, the Dems and the Republicans both could have issued the subpoena years ago. Both sides are complicit in the cover-up and delay of truth about Epstein. And I thought that was an excellent take to point out to people how both of them could have done that. So again, I do feel like without Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, this does not happen. And speaking of some of the people that are crashing out, Megyn Kelly should be ashamed of what she says here. People are seriously roasting her for this one.
As for Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby.
He liked the teen girls that looked younger than they actually were, but would look legal to a passerby. How does that even make any sense? Walk with me here, because pay attention to what Megyn Kelly is trying to do.
And that is what I believed, and that was what I reliably was told for many years. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn, now they call it child sexual abuse material, on his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh, no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest. I don't really trust Pam Bondi's word on the Epstein matters anymore. Yeah, so I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10. I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. Look, you can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. Yeah. You know, it's just whatever.
So here it is, folks. I'm calling it now. They're already planning to find a way to spin this. A 15-year-old is a child. 15-year-olds can't legally drive. 15-year-olds can't buy cigarettes. They can't purchase alcohol. They can't join the military. A 15-year-old girl or 15-year-old boy, their brain is not fully developed. And Megyn Kelly is getting her ass handed to her online. Like, people are really out there saying, like, meet me outside. You know what I'm saying? The way that she's trying to twist that. Sneaky and grimy. And the thing is, if it was the other side, if it was the other party, if it was the Democratic Party, let's say it was Biden who was in the hot seat and not Donald Trump, she wouldn't be trying to make the case. Megyn Kelly is sitting here trying to make the case. We should not go about forward in this country or anywhere in the world trying to make the case for the fact that it is okay if they're 15 or older. They are underage. She's trying to find a way to excuse it. What the fuck is wrong with you? And she's not alone. Her and some of the other Trump supporters trying to find a way to wiggle, you know, it's like that little damn slinky that I had as a kid. Trying to just slink their little way down the stairs and down the hall to get out of this situation because they don't want to admit that Donald Trump is in the wrong. They don't want to admit that they got to own this shit. Jeffrey Epstein this didn't come about yesterday. You know a lot of these things. Some of the things in the emails, no, but you knew that Trump had a relationship with this dude. Now you find out more information. Now you're trying to make excuse for the age. What the hell is wrong with you? It's disgusting. Disgusting. And you can see it here. I'll show you what people said. Look at this. Look at this. RBN, of course, my comrades. Ruling class stenographers normalized their exploitative crimes for centuries. Nick says the capitalist class is completely morally depraved. Megyn Kelly, two things. One, barely legal means legal. but barely, meaning 18 years old, not 15 and 2. And this is what I wanted to show you guys. At some point, you got to come to the fork in the road. At some point, you have an option. You can admit that you were conned and take that motherfucking path, or you can support the pedos that did these to these kids, these underage girls. And I'm literally seeing people willing to die on this hill on social media so that they don't have to point their finger at their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. This is why politicians should not be your hero. You're the hero. You and people in your community, that's the hero. We help each other. We build each other up. When times get bad for you, you reach out to family or friends, people in the community. You don't reach out to Trump. It's insane. This idolization, it drives people crazy. At some point, you got to admit you were conned. And a lot of these, and here's the problem. Ever since Elon Musk, ever since he took over Twitter, he's been elevating a lot of the right-wing accounts. And they are spreading things that are false. Now, it happened on both sides, but the ones that mainly come through because he's elevating them in the algorithm. This freaking guy on Twitter, Gunther, whoever the fuck, hold on. Let me see. Grunther, let me see if I can find him here. This dude is willing to die on this motherfucking hill. Excuse the language, guys. I'm sorry. He's willing to die. It's just so sad. It's disgusting. This guy, this mofo right here, this guy who was ranting and raving about save the children under the Biden administration, this guy who was like, we got to protect them. We need the Epstein files. The moment Donald Trump told you nothing to see here, he was ready to put his tail between his legs and said, well, I trust the president because you're paid to. Watch these accounts. Gunther Eagleman. He has 1.6 million followers on Twitter. This guy is highly elevated throughout the algorithm. See how he distracts you? This woman should be in jail. This woman is a criminal. But he's not going to tell you Donald Trump should be in jail. And a lot of people still falling for this mess. These people are paid to push a certain narrative, a certain agenda. And the more people see that, I hope more people are waking up. But this motherfucker, this guy right here, he is the worst of the worst. I've never seen nobody die so damn hard on this hill like him. He made excuses for Epstein, made excuses for Pam Bondi not releasing those damn files. This guy is kissing Trump's ass to the T. God damn. They must be paying him well. So at some point, you got to take a path. And I sincerely would hope that people would just admit that they got conned. I took that path years ago. You'll be all right. But these emails are something else, and they're doing a slow release, and they're doing it on purpose. And Donald Trump is not looking good. Not looking good. Let's get that poll. Ay. Crazy stuff, man. Okay. Are you surprised by the info revealed in the Epstein emails? 2,576. Whoops. It just changed. 2,578 votes. 4% say yes. 8% say surprised by some of it. 76% say no. And 12% said, I haven't seen it yet. All right, cool. Awesome. I think Eric is going to close us out. I am going to hit the hey. We have some super chats. Eric's going to, I think, read those. I have to prep tomorrow for the screening. So.
And the one thing I'd say about the whole Trump Epstein thing is like we see, like, yeah, they're really crashing out in these big divisions. And then, what it makes me think is if we could find a way to get this same kind of energy around the corruption in general, right? Around this whole concept of MCDS, money corruption, and the demand to clean it up. There's potential there. It's people are sick of it all, and so now we have to leverage it over to more of a general clean up the corruption and have a government that represents us, not the billionaires.
That's right. All right, ladies and gents, I am out. Guys, I am taking Sunday off because I have the documentary screening this weekend. So I'm going to take a couple days off, and I'll see you again Tuesday evening.
Tuesday, the big show, the big watch party, right?
Toodles.
It's going to be exciting. All right. All right, we're going to let Sabrina get out a little early here. And I'm going to close things out. We got some super chats to read. And I'd say, in general, that concept of trying to leverage these kinds of divisions and these kinds of issues into a bigger movement. And, like with the Nick Fuentes and these right-wing broadcast personalities and podcasters, I mean, it's not always a comfortable, I don't know what we call it, not so much an alliance, but, agreements. But, if we can get a movement going based on clear demands, and you can see the type of thing I'm talking about at 11demands.org, it shows that it's possible for this to be popular across the partisan lines, the red-blue lines. So if you're curious about that, check out 11demands.org. Meanwhile, I'm not going to keep us all too long here. Let's see what we got for some of these chats. A friend of the show here, NY Varsity Sports, Jason, thanks for this one. He says, love me some Whitney, but there is nothing side gig about this trolling. It has already surpassed the drug trade and is now rivaling the arms trade. And thanks for this one, Cheryl. Cheryl, who says, hey, Sabby, I got the Pizzagate files on standby. If you need them, just say the word. Screw red versus blue. I want it all exposed. Yeah, getting things exposed is definitely good. And thanks, Alan Paulson, for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Let's see here, just scrolling down what we got down here. Here we go. Thanks for the super sticker, Brad Gilbert. Did Megan not look up legal age of consent, 16 to 18? Yeah, it's also just a dumb thing to just go into. And thanks for the super chat, President Jafar. Didn't the same Megan sue Fox News for sexual harassment? What a hypocrite. And thanks, Amal, who says, great show, lady. Thank you. And thanks for this one, Brad Gilbert. Obama was the black Bush. Now Trump is white Obama. And it gets into that whole, idea. It's a big club there. It's about interests. It's about the billionaire interests versus the working class interests. And, it's time to start demanding that our so-called leaders pick a side and pick our side. And I think we got one more here. Just check another screen over here. Here we go. We got this from, thanks for this. Thanks to Eco Pup Music for being a member for 12 months. And they're using their special chat here to say, Gunter Eagleman is a grifter. So is Libs of TikTok. She don't talk about Epstein anymore since Trump came up. All right. Thanks, everyone, for all those. And yeah, like we've been saying, big show. Our next live show won't be Sunday. Will be Tuesday. But definitely you want to tune in for that to see the big premiere of the Sabrinasalvati documentary, Removed, about Black erasure in Boston. We're going to run the film in its entirety during the live show. And then we're going to have a call-in segment after that. And you can tell us what you think of it and have conversations there. So big show then. Looking forward to that and to hearing from all of you and seeing you. And we'll be seeing you then. That's going to do us for tonight. And as we like to say around here, have a good night and keep up that fight. We'll see you next time.